I locked my 3-year-old brother in the cabinet with the rat poison. My brother died, and I became the killer. She beat me half to death in front of the whole family. Given a second chance at life, she brought out the mahjong mat once again. I immediately grabbed my dad. Dad, I'm coming with you, Mom, without me as your scapegoat. Let's see how you get out of this. 01. That green mahjong mat, like a decaying moss, lay in the center of the living room, humming a little tune. My mother, Lu Fong, pulled the familiar mahjong set from the cupboard. Clatter, clatter. The crisp clacking sound exploded in my ears like a death knell. My heart suddenly tightened, and all the blood in my body seemed to freeze in an instant. Memories of my past life came flooding back like a tidal wave. It's this mahjong mat. It's this set of mahjong tiles to enjoy a carefree game of mahjong with her friends. She found her 3-year-old brother Zhou Yong too noisy. She took out a few candies and lured her brother into the tall storage cabinet in the living room. Then, using a brass lock, she secured the cabinet door from the outside. She didn't know, or perhaps she simply didn't care, that a freshly opened packet of rat poison was placed on the top shelf of the cabinet. In the darkness, my little brother, maybe out of hunger, maybe just out of curiosity, tore open that packet of sweet-smelling snacks. When I got home from school, the clatter of mahjong tiles was still going strong. Mom and a few of her friends were at the table, laughing uproariously. No one heard that the faint crying and scratching from inside the cabinet had long since ceased. It was me. I was the one who noticed something was wrong. I was the one who desperately smashed that lock open, but it was all too late. My little brother's small body was already cold, with dark purple residue still clinging to the corner of his mouth. Mother's mahjong game was interrupted. She rushed over, stared at the scene inside the cabinet, and froze for 3 seconds. Then, she slapped me so hard I fell to the ground. Zhou Yan, why did you kill your brother? That afternoon, I became the murderer who killed my brother, in front of my dad, grandma, and all the relatives who rushed over. My mother beat me all over with a bamboo stick. I cried out in explanation. It wasn't me, it was Mom who locked him in. But my words were drowned out by her even more desperate wails. My son, whom I carried for 10 months. Zhou Yan, how could you be so vicious? Can't you bear to let your brother live? No one believed me. My father crouched in the corner, head in his hands, a picture of cowardice. My grandmother pointed her finger right in my face, calling me a jinx. In the end, my mother was left in a daze from the agony of losing a child, while I was branded a juvenile delinquent and sent away. I was only 13 that year. Yin Yin, what are you daydreaming about? My mother's voice pulled me back from the hellish memories. She had already set the table, smiling warmly at me. Auntie Wang and the others will be here soon. Today, keep an eye on your brother and don't let him run around. Got it? Her tone was exactly the same as in my previous life, that self-righteous command, that complete disregard for the danger your brother was about to face. I stared at her, the hatred in my eyes so intense it felt almost tangible. Given a second chance at life, I had returned to this day, right before my brother's accident, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The mahjong crew would be arriving any minute. The bronze lock that took my brother's life is in the drawer of the TV cabinet. History is about to repeat itself. No, I will never let it happen again, Mom. This time, there's no scapegoat in me. Let's see how you'll manage this, Dad. I ignored Lu Fang and rushed straight to Dad Zhou Jianya, who was changing shoes to go out. My dad was a purchasing agent at a factory, and at that moment, he was just about to head out to meet a client. What's wrong? Yin Yin, Dad looked at me with some surprise. I clutched his arm desperately, using all my strength. Dad, I'm coming with you. Dad was taken aback. Why would you come with me? I'm going to discuss work. You're just a kid. Lu Fang called out from the living room, her voice laced with displeasure. Zhou Jianya, don't listen to her. I told her to stay home and watch her brother. She just wants to slack off and go out to play. Slacking off. I smirked inwardly. In my previous life, it was because I obediently stayed at home that she had all the opportunities to frame me. In this life, the very first thing I'm going to do is walk out of this house. I looked up at my father, my eyes instantly welling up with tears. Dad, our teacher assigned an essay. We have to write about our father's job. I just want to go with you to see, just for a little while. Is that okay? I absolutely won't cause any trouble. My voice trembled with a sob, and my body shook slightly, as if I was frightened by what my mom just said. Dad is the softest-hearted, and he falls for this every time. He was indeed hesitating. Just take a look, Lu Fang impatiently urged from behind. What are you looking at? There's so much to do at home. Let her come with me to buy groceries. Zhou Yan, get over here. Buy groceries. That's exactly what she said in my past life. As soon as I left, she locked my brother up. I clutched my father's sleeve, crying even harder. Dad, I don't want to go buy groceries. I want to stay with You, Mom, she'll scold me. I pretended to be scared and flinched. My father's expression indeed changed. He had always been somewhat dissatisfied with Lu Feng's dominance but didn't dare to openly resist, but when it came to me, his paternal instincts would briefly flare up. All right. Frowning, he waved a dismissive hand at Lu Feng in the living room. It's just a composition. I'll take her. You just watch Yang Yang. We'll be back in no time. With that, he took my hand and opened the door. Come on, Yan Yan, come with your dad. Lu Feng was fuming and cursing behind us. Keep spoiling her, Zhou Jianye. She's just a girl. You'll live to regret this. Zhou Yan, you just wait. I didn't look back as the door closed. Through the crack, I caught a glimpse of Lu Feng's face, contorted with rage. She probably just thought I'd embarrassed her in front of her mahjong friends. She had no idea yet. She had lost her one and only scapegoat, her ticket to freedom in 02, stepping out of the apartment building. The sunlight outside was glaring. I held my father's hand tightly, my palm slick with cold sweat. My heart is still pounding. It worked. I made it out. This is the first, and most crucial, step of the plan. As long as I'm not on the scene, my mother Lu Feng loses the precondition to frame me. She can't exactly claim that I, miles away, ran home to lock my brother in a cabinet. Dad is still feeling uneasy about his attitude toward Lu Feng earlier. As he walked, he kept muttering to himself, Yan Yan, your mother means well. She just has a bit of a short temper, don't take it to heart. Means well, I sneered inwardly, yet my face remained that same picture of timid apprehension. Dad, I know, I just want to be with you. Dad sighed and patted my head. Silly child, little did he know. The foolish child he spoke of harbored schemes and hatred in her heart more venomous than any he had encountered in his entire life. We arrived at the bus stop outside the factory gates. The client Dad was going to meet was in the west side of the city, a bus ride of over half an hour. My heart remained in my throat the whole time, even though I've left home. My younger brother Zhou Yang is still in that monster's clutches. I don't know what Mom will do without me, her accomplice. Will she still lock my brother in the cabinet? If she does, and finds something has happened to him after her mahjong game, how will she cover it up? Will she admit it was her fault? No, she won't. Someone as selfish as her will never admit to being wrong. She will only shift the blame onto others. In my past life, she pinned everything on me. In this life, who can she pin it on? Her father, who comes home late, or a thief who doesn't even exist? My mind was racing, running through every possible scenario. Each possibility sent a chill down my spine. I couldn't entrust my brother's safety to Lu Feng's fickle conscience. I had to do something. Dad, I'm thirsty. I told my dad while waiting for the bus. There's a small shop nearby. I want to buy a bottle of water. Dad took out 5 yuan from his pocket and handed it to me. Go on, hurry back. The car will be here any minute. Okay. Clutching the money, I ran towards the roadside convenience store. On the store's counter sat a red public telephone. This is exactly what I needed. I picked up the phone and dialed a string of numbers with practiced ease. It was my grandmother's home phone number. In my past life, after my younger brother's accident, Grandma was the first one to arrive on the scene. It was also her who pointed at my nose and called me a jinx, hitting and pinching me. She was extremely biased towards men, especially favoring Zhou Yang, her only grandson. At the same time, she also had a deep dislike for Lu Feng, her daughter-in-law. She particularly disapproved of her idleness and obsession with playing mahjong every day. There had been a long-standing grudge between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, and that was the weapon I could use. The phone rang a few times before it was answered. Hello, who is this? It was the robust voice of Grandma. I pinched my throat, altering my voice to sound like an anxious middle-aged woman. Hello, is this Grandma of Zhou Yang? Grandma paused for a moment. Yeah, who is this? Oh, I'm your neighbor from across the hall. I made up an identity on the spot. I just stepped out and saw your daughter-in-law had a whole crowd over at her place. Sounded like a racket. Probably setting up for mahjong. I just wanted to let you know, she's home alone with the kid, playing cards and smoking. The place is filled with smoke, and the child is so young. I hope nothing happens. After saying that, without waiting for Grandma's response, I hung up the phone with a loud click. I believe these words are enough. Knowing Grandma's temper, if she heard her daughter-in-law was hosting a gambling party at home again, especially with her precious grandson present, she'd blow her top instantly, just like a firecracker. She would rush over to our place right away. With her there, at the very least, she'd keep an eye on Lu Feng and stop her from locking Zhou Yang up. After buying the water, I ran back to the bus stop. Dad was starting to get impatient. What took you so long? A whole bus has already gone by. Sorry, Dad. It was really crowded. I lowered my head and apologized quietly. Another bus arrived shortly. We got on. The scenery outside the window streamed past, yet my heart felt clenched by an invisible fist. Grandma You have to get there quickly. The half-hour drive felt like an eternity. Dad had a meeting with a client at a tea house. He settled me in a booth nearby, ordered a glass of juice, and went to discuss business with the client. I had no appetite for the juice at all. I watched the clock on the tea house wall, counting the seconds as they ticked by. By 4 o'clock, the mahjong game should have already started. By 4:30, Grandma should have arrived. By 5 o'clock, all hell should have broken loose. At home, my palms are sweaty. I'm scared. I fear that something might go wrong, that the butterfly flapping its wings in my hand could cause even worse consequences. But no matter what, it's better than sitting idly by as I did in my previous life. Just as I was fidgeting nervously, my dad's phone rang. It was the sharp polyphonic ringtone characteristic of those old-fashioned phones. Dad apologized to the client and picked up the phone. "Hello, what's wrong?" His brow furrowed instantly. "What? Why are you calling me now? I'm in the middle of something. It's important. Home. What could possibly be going on at home? Didn't you ask Sister Wang and the others to help?" My heart leaped into my throat. It was Lu Feng calling. She wouldn't be calling at this time unless it was something bad. Dad's face grew increasingly grim. He lowered his voice, but the impatience and anxiety in his tone were palpable even from a few meters away. "Figure it out yourself. I can't get away from here, kid. Can't. You just take a look yourself." All right, I'll hurry." Hanging up, he impatiently hung up the phone and forced an apologetic smile at the client. "Sorry, just a small matter at home." I looked at him, my heart sinking bit by bit. Something happened at home, but Dad's first reaction wasn't concern, it was annoyance. He felt Lu Feng was interrupting his work. In that moment, I understood with absolute clarity. My father, Zhou Jianye, he loved me, and he loved his brother, but that love was nothing compared to his so-called career and reputation. Rely on him. I was so naive. 03. After hanging up the phone, Dad forced his attention back to his conversation with the client, but his mind was clearly elsewhere. He kept checking his watch, and his speech became noticeably faster. I sat not far away, holding the glass of juice I'd barely touched, my gaze icy. I can guess the content of the phone call. It must be that Grandma rushed to the house and had a big argument with Lu Feng. With Grandma's fighting spirit, Lu Feng's card game must have been ruined. Now, Lu Feng is calling, nothing more than to tattle on me and seek help from Dad. She wanted her dad to hurry back and help her get rid of her troublesome grandmother so she could continue her mahjong game. How ridiculous. Her son was teetering on the brink of life and death, yet all she could think about was her mahjong. In her previous life, she was the same. The moment she discovered her brother's body, she froze for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, her thoughts weren't of grief for her lost son. Instead, she was frantically calculating how to absolve herself of all responsibility. In the end, she chose me as her perfect scapegoat. This time, I dodged it. She immediately turned her attention to her father. In her eyes, her husband and children were merely tools. When useful, they could be commanded and flaunted. When I was of no use, I could be used as a scapegoat or an outlet for their frustrations. Mahjong was her only true family. Another 10 or so minutes passed, and Dad's phone rang again. At the worst possible moment, he glanced at the caller ID, and his face turned ashen. He practically ground his teeth as he answered the call. "What now?" Lu Feng's shrill, tearful shriek immediately came through the line. It was so loud I could faintly hear it from where I was. "Zhou Jianye, are you coming back or not? Your mom's gone crazy." She flipped over my mahjong table. "All my mahjong buddies left because of her. She's completely humiliated me. If you don't come back, I'll die right in front of you." My father's face turned red and pale in turns. The client across from him also looked extremely awkward. "Haven't you made enough of a scene?" My father practically growled the words. "I told you I'm in the middle of something. No matter how big it is, wait until I get back. What could be so important? Is your business more important than mine?" Lu Feng is throwing a tantrum over the phone. "I don't care. You get your ass back here right now, immediately. If I don't get to play mahjong today, you're going to pay for it." Hearing this, the knot of anxiety in my chest finally loosened a little. She was still fixated on the mahjong game. This meant my younger brother, Zhou Yang, was safe for now. At least, Grandma's arrival successfully disrupted her original plan. Dad had finally had enough. He abruptly stood up and shouted into the phone, "Are you crazy?" Then, he hung up the phone directly, completely forgetting about the client beside him. Everyone in the tea house was staring at him with strange looks. Father's face was a mask of humiliation and fury. He grabbed his coat and muttered hastily to the client, "Mr. Li, my apologies. There's an emergency at home. I must go. Let's reschedule for another day." With that, he grabbed me and walked out of the tea house without looking back. On the way home, my father remained silent, his face so dark it seemed ready to drip with gloom. I knew he wasn't angry at Lu Fang, he was angry with himself, furious at myself for losing face in front of the client and ruining a potential deal. Dad, I called out to him softly. He grunted in response, still staring out the window. Mom, are you angry because I wasn't home to watch my brother? I deliberately steered the blame toward myself. Sure enough, Dad turned his head and looked at me. His gaze was complex, filled with heartache but more so with a helpless irritation. None of your business, he said stiffly. It's your mother, she's being so childish. In both my lifetimes, this was the first time I'd ever heard Dad describe Lu Fang as childish. It seems today's little drama really did cross a line for him. I lowered my head, continuing to play the part of the innocent, dutiful daughter. It's all my fault. If I hadn't insisted on tagging along with Dad just to write that essay, did I ruin Dad's business deal too? My voice grew softer and softer, until it finally broke with a sob. Dad's heart melted in an instant. He sighed and pulled me into his embrace. Silly child, what are you talking about? A business deal can be renegotiated, but I can't let my precious daughter be wronged. This had nothing to do with you from the start. Your mother is the one being unreasonable. I buried my face in his chest, a faint smile curling at the corners of my mouth. That's easy for you to say now, Dad, but in my previous life, when Lu Fang framed me, what did you do? All you did was crouch in the corner, covering your head, watching her beat me, curse me, and let everyone despise me. Your fatherly love is cheap and cowardly, but this is better now. At the very least, the scales in your heart have begun to tip in my favor. This is absolutely crucial for my next move. It was already 6 in the evening by the time I got home. The atmosphere at home was oppressive, like the sea before a storm. The living room was in complete disarray. Mahjong tiles, racks, and chips were scattered all over the floor. The green mahjong mat had been torn open with a large gash. Grandma sat on the sofa, her chest heaving violently, clearly very angry. Lu Fang had locked the door to her room, and no one knew what she was doing inside. My younger brother, Zhou Yang, was sitting next to our grandmother, playing with building blocks while stealing glances at her expression. Seeing him safe and sound, the final weight of worry finally lifted from my heart. Alive, my brother is still alive. 04. The moment Dad, Zhou Jianye, pushed the door open, the air in the entire living room froze. He took in the mess scattered across the floor, then looked at our mother trembling with rage on the sofa. Finally, his gaze settled on the tightly shut bedroom door. What is going on? He spoke with difficulty, his voice filled with exhaustion. As soon as Grandma saw him, the anger she had been accumulating all afternoon erupted. She suddenly stood up and pointed at the door. You're asking me? You should ask the wonderful wife you married. If I had arrived even a step later today, I don't even want to think about what she would have done to my precious grandson. The house is like a casino, filled with smoke and chaos. She dares to argue with me, treating my words like they're just wind. Dad's face turned ashen, then flushed with anger. He had been humiliated by a client and lost face, and now he had to come home to this utter mess. Mom, please don't be angry. Calm down first. He walked over, intending to comfort his grandmother. Calm down. How can I possibly calm down? His grandmother was having none of it and roughly pushed his hand away. Jianye, I'm telling you, in this house, it's either her or me. Do whatever you want. These harsh words left Dad completely frozen in place. I took my brother's hand and quietly stood in the corner, trying to minimize our presence, but my eyes never left them for a moment. I am observing and analyzing, observing every expression on my father's face, analyzing the balance in his heart, trying to figure out which side it will tilt towards. My younger brother Zhou Yang seems to have sensed the tension in the air. He stopped playing with the blocks, his small hand tightly gripping the corner of my shirt, his big eyes filled with fear. I patted his back reassuringly. Don't be afraid, Yang, your sister is here. In this life, I will protect you with everything I have. Dad took a deep breath and finally made up his mind. He walked to the tightly closed door, raised his hand, and knocked. Lu Fang, come out. His voice was suppressed with anger. There was no response from inside. Lu Fang, I told you to come out. Did you hear me? His tone rose, and he knocked harder on the door. The door banged loudly. Finally, the lock clicked with a sharp clack. The door was yanked open violently from the inside. Lu Fang stood in the doorway, her hair disheveled and her eyes bloodshot, like an enraged lioness. What's all the shouting for? Someone die. As soon as she spoke, there was a strong sense of tension. Look at what you've done. Her father pointed at the mess on the floor and growled at her. What I've done? Lu Fang let out a cold laugh, crossed her arms, and gave him and his grandmother a disdainful glance. Zhou Jianye, get this straight. This is my home. What's wrong with inviting a few friends over to play cards in my own home? But you, the good mom, just barged in silently, hitting and yelling, and even flipped my table. This is called trespassing. It's illegal. Do you even understand that. Dad was shaking with anger at her twisted version of the truth. I'm doing this for Yang Yang's sake. You're home alone with the child, and you invite a bunch of people over to smoke and play cards. Do you have any sense of responsibility as a mother at all? Responsibility? Lu Fang looked as if she had just heard the most ridiculous joke. I do the laundry, cook your meals, and take care of our son every day. Do you think I lack responsibility? I'm just tired and wanted to unwind with some friends. Is that so wrong? And what about you, Zhou Jianye? What gives you the right to judge me? Her attack, sudden and unexpected, was now directed at her father. You're out all day, every day, supposedly doing business. Where's the money? How much have you actually brought home? What in this household isn't subsidized by my family? What you eat and where hasn't been paid for by my parents? You, a grown man, have been living off me to this extent, and you still have the nerve to lecture me. Those words were like the sharpest knife, deeply cutting into my father's most vulnerable pride. His face turned a deep shade of purple in an instant, his lips trembled, but no words came out. Yes, he couldn't speak, because most of what Lu Fang said was the truth. The factory Dad works at isn't doing well. His job as a procurement officer is really just a cushy-sounding sinecure. His monthly salary barely covers his own expenses. This household has only been able to maintain its respectable facade thanks to the financial support from my grandparents. You're being completely unreasonable. It took Dad a long moment to force the words out through gritted teeth. I'm being unreasonable. Lu Fang's laugh grew even more sardonic. I think it's your mother who's being unreasonable. At her age, still meddling in the affairs of us young people, and that precious daughter of yours. Her gaze finally fell upon me. It was a look of pure, venomous malice. So young, and already a liar. What's with the essay? I think she's doing it on purpose. She's deliberately trying to make it impossible for me to have a peaceful time at home. Tattling to your dad. Zhou Yan, what did you say about me? She stepped closer to me, one step at a time, instinctively. I shielded my younger brother behind me, my body trembling slightly with fear, but this fear was half feigned, half genuine, facing the woman who had personally cast me into hell in my past life. The tremor in my very bones was utterly uncontrollable. Don't frighten the child. Dad finally snapped out of it and pulled me behind him. I think you've spoiled her rotten. Lu Fang pointed at me, shrieking at Dad. A worthless thing. You treat it like a treasure. Have you ever asked about my son? Enough. Suddenly, the usually silent grandmother erupted. She rushed over, pushed Lu Fang away, and tightly shielded my brother and me in her arms. You troublemaker. Who are you calling a worthless burden? Yan Yan is a granddaughter of the Zhou family. Yang Yang is a grandson of the Zhou family. You, an outsider, have no right to stand here and criticize. Spit it out today. Do you have it in for Yan Yan? If you don't want to raise her, I'll take her. We Zhou family will raise her ourselves. Fine. Lu Fang shouted in desperation. Take her away right now. Take your useless son and your precious grandson with you. I don't want this family anymore. I want a divorce. Fine, let's get a divorce. Finally pushed past his breaking point, Dad roared out those words. A deathly silence instantly fell over the living room. Everyone was stunned, myself included. I never expected things to escalate to this point. Divorce. In their previous lives, they had argued and fought countless times, but the word divorce was never truly spoken out loud. In this lifetime, due to my rebirth, the gentle flap of my butterfly wings has unexpectedly triggered such a fierce storm. Lu Fang was also stunned. She probably didn't expect that her usually timid father would actually dare to say those two words. Her expression changed again and again. There was shock, there was anger, but above all, there was the excruciating awkwardness of being stuck between a rock and a hard place. Okay, she pointed at her father and said good twice. Zhou Jianye, you've got guts, don't you dare regret this. After saying that, she turned around and slammed the door shut with a loud bang. This time, we all heard the sound of the lock clicking shut from inside. 05. That click of the lock was like a thunderclap, leaving everyone in the living room unsettled. Grandma's face looked terrible. She probably regretted it too, having spoken so decisively earlier, forcing the situation into an irreversible corner, but she still refused to back down verbally. Divorce then. Jianye can find someone better without us, unlike some people, who can only play mahjong and nothing else. Dad remained silent. He slumped onto the sofa, his hands buried in his hair, clutching his head in agony. I know he regrets it. He didn't have the guts to get a divorce. He only shouted those two words out of momentary impulse, hurt by Lu Fang's remarks and his wounded pride. Now that he's calm, he only feels fear. If this family falls apart, he has no idea how to fix it. Watching his cowardly demeanor, I felt absolutely nothing. In fact, there was a secret sense of satisfaction. Dad, have you tasted The bitterness of pain too. This pain is less than a 10,000th of what I endured in my previous life. A stifling silence spread through the air. In the end, it was Grandma who first gave in. She sighed, her tone softening. Janya, don't get worked up over her. She's just got that nasty temper, spoiled by her family. Wait until her anger subsides, then talk to her properly. This life, we have to keep going. For Yang Yang. For Yen Yen, this family cannot fall apart. Dad still didn't look up, only letting out a muffled hum from his throat. Grandma sat for a while longer, watching the stalemate, and knew that staying any longer would be useless. She patted Zhou Yang on the head and then looked at me. Grandma is going back first. Yin Yin, you're sensible. Keep an eye on your brother and try to persuade your dad more. Okay, Grandma. I obediently nodded. After seeing Grandma off, only the three of us remained at home. Dad was still sitting on the sofa, like a statue. My brother Zhou Yang was probably hungry and whispered to me, "Sister, I'm hungry." A pang of sadness struck my heart. It was almost 7 o'clock, and not a single person in this house had thought about making dinner. I walked into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. It was completely empty, except for a few eggs and some leftover rice. With practiced ease, I rinsed the rice, turned on the stove, cracked 2 eggs, and made a simple bowl of fried rice. I brought the fried rice over to Zhou Yang and began feeding him with a small spoon. Be a good boy. Yang Yang, have a little something to tide you over. Zhou Yang was very obedient, opening his mouth and eating bite after bite. Dad seemed to be drawn by the aroma and finally looked up. He looked at me taking care of my brother so skillfully, his eyes filled with guilt. Yin Yin, are you hungry? Dad, I'm not hungry. You eat. I slid the other plate of fried rice over to him. I'll wait for Mom to come out so we can eat together. I deliberately brought up Lu Fang, the light in Dad's eyes dimmed. He picked up the spoon and mechanically shoveled food into his mouth, each bite tasting like sawdust. The dinner concluded in that eerie, heavy silence. I cleared the table, gave Zhou Yang a bath, and then put him to bed. By the time I finished all that, it was almost 9 o'clock. Dad was still sitting in the living room, the TV on, but it was clear he wasn't taking in a single word. The bedroom door remained tightly locked. Lu Fang had shut herself inside, making no sound at all, as if she didn't exist, but I knew she must be listening to the sounds outside. She was waiting and waiting for her father to knock on the door, to apologize, to beg her, just as it had happened countless times after their arguments. But this time, she miscalculated. Dad didn't move. His pride was utterly shattered, and this silence was his form of quiet protest. I walked over and sat down beside him. Dad, Mom. She hasn't eaten yet, I said softly. Dad's body stiffened. She's not hungry, he replied curtly. But, you can't work on an empty stomach. How can you go without food? I continued, my voice tinged with naive concern. Dad, you should go apologize to Mom. No way. He shot back almost instantly. This time, she's gone too far. But Grandma also flipped her mahjong table. I accidentally reminded them. Mom must be really angry too. Dad fell silent. I'm going to strike while the iron is hot. Dad, you're the head of the family. You should be more accommodating towards Mom. We're family. It'll be fine once we talk things out. I'm scared when you give Mom the silent treatment like this. I lowered my head, my voice choking with emotion. Every word of this touched my father's heart. It gave him a way out and satisfied his pitiful, albeit fragile, ego as the head of the family. He looked at me for a long time, his gaze softening. He sighed and patted my head. My Yin Yin is always the sensible one. He stood up, walked to the door, and hesitated for a long while. Finally, he raised his hand and knocked gently on the door. Lu Fang, open the door. His voice carried a tone of compromise. Let's talk about whatever it is. Inside, there was still complete silence. Dad's face fell, his composure visibly slipping, his tone sharpened. Lu Fang, stop making a scene. I'm warning you. If you don't open this door, you'll face the consequences. This hollow threat, all bark and no bite, had no effect whatsoever. It was more like lighting the fuse. Get out. Finally, Lu Fang's voice, suppressed with rage, came from within the door, just one word, yet filled with hatred. Father's face darkened completely. He turned, walked back to the sofa, and sat down heavily, not uttering another word. I knew the Cold War between us wouldn't end tonight, and frankly, I didn't want it to. Arguments, cold wars, resentment, these are just the appetizers. Lu Fang, the main course I've prepared for you is yet to come. I lay in my own small bed, wide awake. I closed my eyes, replaying everything that had happened today in my mind. Every step went exactly as I had planned. It went even more smoothly than I had anticipated. I successfully left home and cleared my name of any suspicion. I successfully brought Grandma over and ruined Lu Fang's mahjong game. I successfully escalated the conflict between the couple and between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. My younger brother, Zhou Yang, is safe. At least for today, he's safe. But what about tomorrow? And the day after? Lu Fang's obsession with mahjong has reached a pathological level. A single loss will only make her more reckless next time. I can't rely on dad or grandma every single time. I need to find a permanent solution, a way to completely remove Lu Feng from our lives. Divorce. The word resurfaced in my mind today. Dad impulsively spoke out, although he regretted it. The seed had already been sown. All I need to do is let the seed take root, sprout, and grow into a towering tree. I want to make dad completely lose hope and despair in Lu Feng. I want him to willingly, proactively, propose a divorce. This is difficult, I know. This is extremely difficult. Dad is weak-willed, cares about his reputation, and is also concerned about me and my brother. No matter how difficult, I will make it happen, because only in this way can my brother and I be completely saved from this abyss. My mind began to race. I need a plan more meticulous and perfect than today's, a plan that would expose Lu Feng's selfishness, viciousness, and complete lack of maternal instinct to the light of day, a plan that would leave her with no chance of redemption. The night grows deeper. Outside the window, it was pitch black, yet in my eyes, a cold light flickered, one that didn't match my age. 06. The next morning, the atmosphere at home remained frigid. Dad hadn't slept all night, dark circles heavy under his eyes. He got up early, threw together a quick bite to eat, and got ready to head out for work. As he passed by Lu Feng's door, he hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he didn't knock again. Yin, Daddy's off to work, he said to me. Take care of your brother at home today. If your mom gets out, you should say a few nice words to her. His tone was filled with weariness and helplessness. Got it, Dad. I obediently agreed. After seeing my father off, I looked at the closed door and sneered coldly. Say nice things. All I'll say are words that can send her to hell. The door finally opened around 9 in the morning. Lu Feng walked out. She changed into a new outfit and put on light makeup, as if yesterday's argument had never happened, but her swollen eyes and tight lips still revealed her emotions. She didn't look at me, nor did she glance at Zhou Yang playing in the living room. She walked straight to the telephone and picked up the receiver. I pricked up my ears. I knew what she was about to do. Indeed, she dialed a number. Hello, Sister Wang, her voice, filled with deliberately forced enthusiasm. It's me, Lu Feng. Oh dear, I'm really sorry about yesterday. An elder relative suddenly showed up, and she has quite a temper, which scared all of you. I'll apologize on her behalf. Yes, exactly. At her age, she just loves to meddle. She casually dismissed Grandma as a fussy, unreasonable old woman. Sister Wang, are you free today? To your place? Oh my. I couldn't possibly impose. Her words feigned reluctance, but her tone was brimming with eagerness. All right. It's settled then. Let me just grab my things. I'll be right over. After hanging up the phone, a genuine smile finally spread across her face. It was a deep, heartfelt longing for a game of mahjong. She turned around and finally looked me in the eye. Zhou Yan, she called my name, her tone cold and hard. I need to go out for a while to talk to Aunt Wang and the others. Stay home and keep an eye on your brother. Don't go out, don't run around. Do you hear me? Here we go again. The exact same words as in my previous life. The same exact command. This time, the location changed from my own home to someone else's. Oh, I lowered my head and meekly responded. Lu Feng gave a satisfied hum and turned to go back to her room to fetch her bag. I watched her retreating figure, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. The moment has arrived. The stage I've so meticulously prepared for you is now set. Now, it's your turn to take the stage. Lead actor, let's see your performance. While she was getting her bag, I quietly slipped over to Zhou Yang's side. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a piece of candy. My dad had bought it for me yesterday when we went out. I couldn't bear to eat it. Yang, look, sister is giving you candy. I peeled off the wrapper and placed the crystal clear fruit candy in his palm. Zhou Yang smiled happily and immediately popped the candy into his mouth. Sister is so nice, he mumbled. I patted his head. Yang, shall we play a game? Okay, all right. Wait, after mom leaves, pretend you have a stomachache, a really bad one, rolling on the ground. Okay. As I spoke, I gestured with my hands. Zhou Yang's big eyes were filled with confusion. Why, sister? Because as long as you have a stomachache, mom will stay with you. She won't go out to look for Aunt Wang, and she'll buy you lots and lots of delicious food. I used the most beautiful words I could imagine to tempt a 3-year-old. Really? Zhou Yang's eyes lit up. Really? I nodded firmly. Well, all right then, he agreed. Though not entirely sure by now, Lu Feng had already picked up her bag and left. She slipped on her high heels, checked her reflection in the hallway mirror, and smoothed her hair. I'm heading out, she said to us without turning her head. Remember to lock the door. At the moment she reached out to open the door, I gave my brother a meaningful look. Zhou Yang received the signal and immediately let out an ow before clutching his stomach and collapsing to the ground. Stomach, it hurts. He rolled around on the ground, shouting all the Well, his acting was actually quite poor, but for a 3-year-old, it was enough. Lu Feng's movements stopped. She turned around, frowning at Zhou Yang on the ground. What's going on here? There was no concern in her tone, only impatience. Mom, I don't know. I immediately rushed over, hugged Zhou Yang, and pretended to be on the verge of crying. My brother was fine just a moment ago, and suddenly he complained of stomach pain. Mom, is my brother sick? Let's take him to the hospital. Hospital. Lu Feng's brow furrowed even deeper. She glanced at the clock on the wall. It was already 9:30. Sister Wang and the others must have all arrived by now. We're one player short, just waiting for her. If we go to the hospital now, register, wait in line, get checked, the whole day will be wasted. Her mahjong game will be ruined again. A flicker of struggle crossed her face, but soon, that trace of struggle was completely overwhelmed by the allure of mahjong. She walked over, crouched down, and perfunctorily felt Zhou Yang's forehead. No fever. Kids these days, always finding something wrong with them. It must be something unclean I ate just now. She glanced at the candy wrapper I had just thrown into the trash. Look, you're eating candy again. She easily shifted the blame to that piece of candy. Zhou Yan, go pour him a cup of hot water. Have some hot water. Lie down for a bit, and you'll feel better. She stood up. Mom, but brother looks really unwell. I looked at her with concern. Are you deaf to what I'm saying? Lu Feng's patience had finally run out. She snapped sharply. I told you to get some water. What could possibly be so important for a child? I have urgent business to attend to. I don't have time to waste here with you. With that, she didn't spare us another glance. She pulled the door open and strode out. The door slammed shut with a bang. The security door slammed shut with a heavy thud, sealing my brother, me, and her into two separate worlds. I stared at that cold, steel door, listening as the sound of high heels outside grew fainter and fainter. Slowly, I helped Zhou Yang up from the floor where he was still thrashing about. All right, Yang, the show's over. Mom has already left. Zhou Yang stopped, rubbed his eyes, and looked wronged. Sister, you're lying. Mom didn't stay to keep me company. I crouched down and wiped the tears from the corner of his eye, and my voice was cold and calm. Yeah, Mom doesn't want us anymore. She went to play mahjong. My plan was half successful. I have created the perfect scenario where a mother, knowing her son is sick, still callously leaves him behind to play mahjong. No, I need an audience, one who can clearly see this drama unfold and has enough weight to testify for me. I picked up Zhou Yang. Yang, don't cry. Sister will take you to find Dad now. Let's go tell Dad how Mom treated us. 07. I carried Zhou Yang out of the apartment building. The sun was shining, and the streets were bustling with life, yet my heart felt as cold as ice water. I have no money. I don't know the exact location of my father's factory. I vaguely remember him mentioning it in the industrial area in the eastern part of the city in my past life. It takes at least an hour to get to the eastern part of the city by bus from our home. What should I do? Looking at my tearful little brother, who was sniffling in my arms from feeling wronged, a fierce determination welled up inside me. Zhou Yan, you must not panic. You've already died once. A little thing like this won't stop you. I carried my younger brother and walked to the security booth at the entrance of the community. Inside the security booth was a 50-something-year-old plump uncle. I know him. Everyone calls him Uncle Lee. In my past life, after my younger brother's incident, when the police came to investigate, Uncle Lee was the first to testify. He claimed that he only saw me and my brother at home that afternoon and didn't see Lu Feng leave the house. His testimony indirectly became one of the final nails in my coffin. In this life, he will be my first witness. I held my little brother, and the tears came instantly. Sobbing, I ran towards the security booth. Uncle Lee, Uncle Lee. Uncle Lee was reading the newspaper. Hearing my cries, he quickly leaned out. Oh my, isn't that Yan? What's happened? He saw Zhou Yang in my arms and the tears streaming down both our faces. My brother's stomach hurt so badly. I was crying so hard I could barely catch my breath, as if the sky were falling. My mom, she went out and forgot her phone. I can't find her. Uncle Lee, my dad works at the Hongxing machinery factory in the east part of town. Could you please call him for me? I'm afraid something might happen to my little brother. My words were a jumbled mess, but they perfectly painted a picture of a neglectful mother and a helpless older sister. Uncle Lee got anxious immediately upon hearing that the child was sick and the mother wasn't home. Don't worry, child. Uncle will call your dad right now. He immediately put down the newspaper and rummaged through a drawer to find a phone book. The factory's phone numbers were all registered in a directory. He quickly found the phone number for Red Star Machinery Factory. He dialed the number. After a few rings, the call connected. Uncle Lee spoke loudly into the phone, explaining the situation. Hey, can you find Zhou Janya from your factory's procurement department? Yes? I'm the security guard at his residential complex. His daughter is crying downstairs, saying her brother has a terrible stomachache, and their mother is nowhere to be found. Tell him to come back right away. The kids need him." Uncle Lee was a kind soul, his voice booming with vitality. After hanging up the phone, he said to me, "Yin Yin, don't be scared. Your dad will be home soon." I shook my head, tears streaming down my face even harder. "No, Uncle Lee, I can't wait any longer." My younger brother, his face turned pale. I pinched Zhou Yang, and he cried out in pain. Wah! This only reinforced the illusion of a serious illness. Uncle Lee also panicked at the sight. "What should we do? Should I call an ambulance for you?" "No." I immediately refused. What am I supposed to do if the ambulance comes and my mom isn't here, my dad isn't here, and I'm all alone? "Uncle Lee, I want to take my little brother to find Dad." "As long as Dad is there, I won't be scared," I said in a tone that conveyed utter dependence on my father. These words made Uncle Lee feel even more protective and tender towards me. "But how will you go alone?" "I'll take the bus." I looked up, my eyes stubborn yet helpless. "I don't know the way, but I know it's Hongxing Machinery Factory." "Uncle Lee, could you write down the name of the factory for me? I'm afraid I might get it wrong." Uncle Lee let out a heavy sigh, his eyes filled with reproach for Lu Feng and sympathy for us. He found a piece of paper, took a thick pen, and carefully wrote down the 5 characters, "Red Star Machinery Factory." "Here you go." "Thank you, Uncle Lee." I took the note and clutched it tightly in my hand. "Be careful on the way and take good care of your brother," Uncle Lee urged with concern. "Is the money enough?" "Uncle has some here." "It's enough. I still have my dad's allowance." I told my last lie then. I held Zhou Yang and resolutely headed towards the bus stop. I had no money at all, but I knew that there would always be kind-hearted people on the bus. I held my seriously ill brother, my eyes red from crying. This appearance would be enough to elicit sympathy from anyone, as expected. After I got on the bus, I explained the situation to the driver. Not only did the driver not ask for my money, but he also kindly offered me a seat. The surrounding passengers also cast concerned glances. "Where's this child's mother? How could she let an older kid take a sick baby out like this? Honestly, young mothers these days are so irresponsible." I listened to these comments, my head bowed, burying my face in my little brother's hair, yet, inside, I felt not a single ripple of emotion. "Lu Feng, do you hear that? This is the world's judgment of you, and I will etch this judgment onto your pillar of shame, for all eternity." An hour later, the bus finally came to a stop in the industrial district. I followed the name on Uncle Lee's note, asking my way along the way, and finally found the rust-covered gate of Hongxing Machinery Factory. The security guard at the gate stopped me. "Little girl, who are you looking for?" "I'm looking for my dad. His name is Zhou Jianye, and he's in the procurement department." I repeated the words I had said countless times. Seeing me holding a child with a worried expression, the security guard still made an internal call. Soon, my father's familiar yet impatient voice came through the phone. "Hello. Who is it?" "Chief Zhou. Your daughter is at the entrance asking for you. She's holding your son," the security guard said. There was a silence of a few seconds on the other end of the line. I could almost picture my father's expression at that moment. First shock, then fury. Let them in." His voice was tight with suppressed rage. Holding my younger brother, I walked into the factory, passing through the workshop, thick with the smell of machine oil. I arrived at the drab, gray office building. The procurement department is on the 2nd floor. As soon as I stepped up the stairs, I saw my dad standing at the office door. His face was ashen. In the office, there were a few curious figures peeking around. His colleagues. "Zhou Yan, what are you doing here?" he hissed at me in a low, stern voice. "Who told you to come?" His first reaction was not to care about us, but to feel that I had embarrassed him. My heart was not surprised. I had long seen through this cowardly and vain man. I didn't answer him. I just held Zhou Yang in my arms and nudged him forward. "Dad, my brother, he's not going to make it." My voice trembled with tears, and I swayed unsteadily, as if about to faint at any moment. Zhou Yang played along, letting out a weak moan from within my embrace. His father's expression finally changed. He saw Zhou Yang's little face, flushed red from crying, and saw his listless demeanor. His anger was instantly replaced by concern. "What's wrong, Yang?" He rushed over and took the younger boy from my arms. "What happened?" The office door opened, and several colleagues gathered around. "Oh, Janya, are these your 2 kids? What's wrong with the little one? Why is their face so pale? Quick, take them to the hospital." The crowd's chatter was like hammers, pounding on my father's pride. I let out a loud wail, slumping to the ground and crying loudly. "Dad, I don't know what to do. After Mom left this morning, my little brother said his stomach hurt and started rolling on the floor. I tried calling Mom, but she didn't answer. I was scared, so I had to bring my brother to Find you. My words clearly reached everyone's ears. After Mom left in the morning, my brother has a stomachache. I called Mom, but she didn't answer. Every single word was an indictment of Lu Feng's negligence and indifference. My father's face could no longer be described as merely ashen. It was a deep, liver-like shade, a mix of anger, shame, and worry. It was an extreme state of embarrassment. Holding Zhou Yang, he looked at me sobbing on the floor, then glanced at the strange looks from our colleagues all around. He knew it. His dignity was utterly shattered today. Stop staring. Is your work all done? He barked at his colleagues, his bluster barely concealing his fear. Then, he pulled me up. Come on, to the hospital. His grip was so tight it made my wrist ache, but I didn't care at all. Dad, this is just the beginning. The best is yet to come. 08. Dad practically fled, dragging me along and carrying Zhou Yang as he rushed out of the office building, the whispers of his colleagues behind him felt like invisible needles piercing his back. His wife must have gone to play mahjong again, right? Probably. I remember him mentioning last time that his wife loves playing it. TSK, how could she be so careless when the child is this sick? Poor old Zhou, stuck with a wife like that. The voices, neither too loud nor too soft, drifted just within earshot of father. His pace quickened, and his expression grew darker. Once outside the factory gates, he immediately hailed a taxi. Driver, take us to the nearest hospital. The atmosphere in the car was unbearably tense. Father held Zhou Yang, constantly feeling his forehead and checking his breathing. His anxiety and worry were genuine, and there I sat, head down, silent. I was waiting for an opportunity to utterly crush him. Arriving at the hospital, registering, finding a doctor. It was all a chaotic rush. The doctor was a middle-aged woman, very experienced. She gave Zhou Yang a preliminary checkup, listening to his heartbeat and pressing on his abdomen. It's nothing serious. The doctor removed the stethoscope and spoke in a flat tone. It's probably just something I ate. I have some stomach cramps. Nothing serious. Dad was stunned, but he was rolling on the ground in pain. Kids tend to overreact to pain. The doctor said matter-of-factly, if you're not at ease, go get a blood test and an ultrasound, but in my opinion, it's nothing serious. Go home, drink some hot water, watch your diet, and you'll be fine soon. Dad visibly relaxed upon hearing the result, but then, a stronger surge of anger flared up from deep within him. It's not a big deal, just because of this minor issue labeled not a big deal. Lu Feng, the woman who was their mother, had simply abandoned her 2 children at home. She didn't even call. The father's lips trembled slightly with anger. He looked at the doctor and spoke with difficulty. Doctor, let's just do a checkup for peace of mind. All right, I'll write you a prescription. Holding the payment slip, Dad's face was as dark as a thundercloud. He went to queue up to pay the bill. I sat on the bench in the corridor, holding Zhou Yang, who had finally quieted down. Sister, when are we going home? Zhou Yang whispered to me. He probably sensed that something was off. Soon. Yang, be good. I patted his back soothingly. Just then, Dad's phone rang. The shrill polyphonic ringtone sounded especially jarring in the quiet hospital corridor. Dad took out his phone and glanced at the caller ID. His body stiffened abruptly. The screen flashed the words, wife. It's Lu Feng. She finally decided to call. It was 11:30 in the morning. After 2 hours of mahjong, she probably remembered her 2 kids at home during a break. Dad took a deep breath and answered the call. His hands were trembling. Hello, he spoke, his voice gravelly and strained. Zhou Jianya, where are you? Why isn't anyone answering the home phone? On the other end of the line came Lu Feng's voice, dripping with a sense of entitlement. In the background, the clattering of mahjong tiles mingled with the laughter of women. The sound was so clear, so utterly mocking. Dad's eyes turned red instantly. Where am I? He squeezed out these words between his teeth. I should be asking you where you are. Lu Feng didn't seem to notice the odd tone in his voice. Where else would I be? I'm at Sister Wang's house. Didn't I tell you yesterday? Hurry back and bring me some money. I'm having bad luck today, and I'm almost out of cash. Deliver money, she called, not to ask about the child, not to inquire about the family situation. Instead, she asked him to deliver gambling funds. I saw his father's chest heaving violently. He was so angry that he couldn't even speak. Zhou Jianya, are you listening? Someone's dead. On the other end of the line, Lu Feng urged impatiently. Lu Feng, Dad finally spoke, his voice unnervingly calm. Yang is sick. Now, we are at the hospital. The other end of the phone went silent. The noisy sound of mahjong seemed to have disappeared. A few seconds later, Lu Feng's voice came again, tinged with uncertainty. The hospital? What do we need to go to the hospital for? Isn't it normal for a child to have a stomachache? Aren't you overreacting? She felt no remorse, not a single word of concern, only accusations. Accusing Dad of making a mountain out of a molehill and ruining her mahjong game. Those words were the final straw that broke the Camel's back, making a fuss over nothing. Father laughed. It was a laugh more bitter than a sob. Yes, I'm making a fuss over nothing. I shouldn't have fucking cared about you. Yang Yang should have died in pain alone at home. You should have been out there happily playing your mahjong. He shouted into the phone with all his might. The entire corridor was staring at him in shock, but he no longer cared. All sense of face and dignity, at this moment, shattered into dust. Lu Fang on the other end of the phone seemed startled by his sudden outburst. Zhou Jianye, what are you going crazy for? Me going crazy? The father let out a bitter laugh. Lu Fang, I ask you, what is most important in your heart? Is it your son, or your mahjong? Are you crazy? Lu Fang screamed. It's just a stomachache. What's the big deal? Do you really have to curse him to death like that? Listen here, Zhou Jianye, don't you dare use the kids to pressure me. If you don't bring me the money right now and make me lose face at the card table today, you'll regret it. The truth comes out. She finally revealed her true intentions. Her reputation mattered more than her son's health. Her mahjong mattered more than her family. Her father's heart was completely broken. He never spoke again. He just silently stared at the payment slip in his hand, gazing at the two characters, Zhou Yun. Then, he did something I had never seen him do in my 2 lifetimes. Slowly, he raised his hand. Then, he pressed the red end call button on his phone. He hung up on Lu Fang. Amidst her threats and curses, he deliberately severed their connection. Then, he turned off his phone. The whole world is at peace. He looked up at me. That gaze was something I had never seen before. Utter stillness, like ashes that have burned out. No light remains. Yin Yin. He called my name. Let's go to Grandma's house. 09. After leaving the hospital, Dad didn't take us back to that cold, empty house. He took my brother and me on the bus to our grandmother's house. Throughout the journey, he didn't say a single word. He just silently held Zhou Yang, who was fast asleep, staring blankly at the scenery outside the window. I knew his heart had completely died during that phone call. The woman he once loved, sacrificed for, and compromised for, the mother of his child, to think she could be so selfish, so cold-blooded. Every excuse, every illusion, was shattered against the hard wall of reality. Nothing is more devastating than hearing it with your own ears. Grandma lived in an old fashioned residential complex. When we knocked on the door, Grandma was in the middle of preparing lunch. Seeing the 3 of us, she froze. Jianye, Yin Yin, Yang Yang, what are you all doing here? Shouldn't you be at work and school? Her gaze fell upon her father's deathly pale face. What's going on? What happened? Dad didn't say a word. He gently handed Zhou Yang, who was in his arms, to his grandmother. Then, this man in his 30s, who put up a strong front outside, finally broke down in front of his own mother. He sat on the shoe bench by the door, covering his face with his hands. His broad shoulders trembled violently. A suppressed, painful sob escaped from between his fingers. He cried, like a child. He wailed in front of his mother. Grandma was completely panicked. She held Zhou Yang, looking at her son, and was in a frantic state. Oh my dear son, what's wrong with you? Don't scare your mother like that. I walked over and gently tugged at Grandma's sleeve. Grandma, my voice came out hoarse. My brother fell ill this morning. Then, in the calmest, most objective tone I could muster, I recounted everything that had happened today, starting with Zhou Yang's stomach ache, to how Lu Fang ignored it and insisted on going out to play mahjong, about how I sought help from Uncle Li and took my younger brother to the factory to find our dad, then, about that phone call between Dad and Lu Fang at the hospital. I didn't embellish the story or deliberately smear Lu Fang's name, because the plain facts were shocking enough on their own. The calmer I spoke, the more incomprehensible Lu Fang's action seemed. My grandmother held Zhou Yang, her face shifting from astonishment to anger, and finally to a cold, steely shade of green as she listened to my account. Her hands trembled slightly from anger. When I finished, she said nothing. She simply laid Zhou Yang gently on the sofa and covered him with a blanket. Then, she walked over to her father, who was still crying. She offered him no words of comfort. She merely reached out and gave his back a firm, heavy pat. Cry, she said, her voice laced with a resolute, almost exasperated determination. Today, I'm going to let you cry your heart out. Let it all out. All the grievances you've suffered, all the pent-up frustration from all these years. Stop crying and stand up like a man. This family can't go on like this anymore. Dad cried even harder. All his strength and pretense fell away in front of his mother. I silently observed it all. There was neither sympathy nor satisfaction in my heart, only a cold, calm stillness. This is their Zhou family's own affair. It was I who lit this fire with my own hands. Now, I will watch as this fire reduces that woman, Lu Fang, to ashes. Let's burn away Dad's pathetic cowardice and delusions along with it. That day, we stayed over at Grandma's house. Grandma prepared a huge feast. She kept piling food onto Zhou Yang's plate and telling him stories, as if she wanted to lay All the best things in the world right at the feet of her precious grandson. She also served me a lot of dishes. Yin Yin, eat more. Look how thin you've become. You've suffered these days. Her eyes were filled with love and guilt. She probably remembered how she had indiscriminately scolded and beaten me in her previous life, although she didn't know about her past life. But everything that happened today was enough for her to understand that the most sensible and reliable person in this family is me. Dad's emotions gradually stabilized. He barely touched his food, just drank a lot of wine. Grandma didn't try to stop him either. That evening, Grandma fixed up a room for us to stay in. I gave Zhou Yang a bath and got him settled to sleep. As I stepped out of the room, I saw Dad and Grandma sitting in the living room, talking. The lighting was dim, and their expressions were grave. I quietly hid behind the door, listening to their conversation. Mom, I don't know what to do anymore. It was Dad's voice, filled with confusion and pain. This marriage, it must end. Grandma's voice was firm and decisive. That woman has no place in her heart for this family. For you three, her heart was long gone, hooked by the mahjong table. If you keep living with her, one day you'll end up with nothing but ruin. Ruin. Those 4 words hit me like a sledgehammer, crushing my heart. Yeah, in my past life, wasn't it just my family being destroyed and everyone dead? My brother died. I was sent to a juvenile detention center. Dad was utterly devastated. Lu Fang, however, gained everyone's sympathy by playing the grief-stricken mother card, and in the end, she remarried, using the money from her parents. Why should she? But, Mom, there was hesitation in Dad's voice. What about the kids? Yin Yan and Yang Yang are still so young. If we divorce, they won't have a mother anymore. They'll be laughed at. It's gotten to this point already. He's still worrying about that ridiculous pride. He's still clinging to unrealistic fantasies about Lu Fang. Better to have no mother than to have a mother like her. Grandma shouted angrily. With her as a mother, Yang Yang almost got into serious trouble today. Have you forgotten? With her as a mother, Yin Yin, such a young child, has to act as both a sister and a mother, worrying about this family. Jianya, wake up. Her presence is the greatest harm to the children. Get a divorce. Secure full custody of both children. You can't raise them alone. But you're not alone. I'm here for you. I'd sell everything I own to help you raise Yin Yan and Yang Qiang. Grandma's words were firm and powerful. The living room fell into a long silence. I could feel that my father's mind was in a fierce internal struggle. On one side were societal expectations, on the other, an obsession with a complete family. On the other side lies the brutal reality, the potential danger that children might face. After a long while, I heard my father say, in a voice almost drained of strength, Mom, let me think about it some more. I quietly retreated back to my room. That's enough. I know he's wavering. The seed named divorce had taken deep root in his heart. Now, all I needed was one final nudge to give him a reason he could no longer evade or hesitate over. I lay in bed, gazing at the moonlight outside the window. Lu Fang, you should have already returned to that empty house of yours by now, right? What will your reaction be when you find that none of us are there? Will you panic, or will you think we're just throwing a tantrum and we'll return on our own soon? I guess it's the latter. After all, in your eyes, we all depend on you. Tomorrow, you'll find out. You're wrong. How wrong you are. 10. The next day, no one mentioned going home. Dad took leave, saying there was something at home. He took my brother and me to the nearby park. He bought cotton candy for Zhou Yang and me, and even accompanied Zhou Yang on the rocking car. He was trying hard to play the role of a good father. He wants to make up for the wrongs he did to us in the past. I could tell his smile was forced. His gaze would always drift off into the distance, full of emptiness. He was thinking of Lu Fang, or perhaps I was thinking of the illusion of home, now utterly shattered. I didn't call him out on it. Some paths he must walk alone, some decisions he must make for himself. I had a great time with Zhou Yang, or rather, I acted like I was having a great time. My younger brother was genuinely happy. He hadn't received such undivided attention from his father in a long time. His clear laughter, like sunshine, dispelled the gloom that had shrouded his father's heart. I noticed that when Dad looked at my brother, his eyes would reveal genuine tenderness. I knew he would become stronger for Yang Yang. We had KFC for lunch outside. This is the first time I've ever had this, in both my lives. In my past life, Lu Fang always called this junk food and forbade us from touching it, yet she herself would often go eat it with her mahjong friends. Dad clumsily helped us tear the chicken legs and poured us cola, watching us wolf down our food. His eyes grew slightly red. Slow down, Yin Yin, Yang Yang. From now on, Dad will bring you here often. I looked up and gave him a big smile. Thank you, Dad. After dinner, we returned to Grandma's house. The phone at Grandma's house rang shortly after we entered. The urgent ringing sounded like a death knell. Grandma and Dad exchanged a glance. Grandma walked over and picked up the Receiver, hello, who is this? Her voice was steady and strong. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds, then Lu Fang's voice, suppressed with anger, came through. Mom, it's me, Lu Fang. Where's Janya? Have him pick up the phone. Her tone was not a question, but a command. It's as if we all owed her something. He's not here. Grandma's reply was curt and decisive. Not here. Where did he go? Didn't he go to work today? Lu Fang's tone instantly rose. His phone is also turned off. What on earth are you up to? I'm asking you, where are Zhou Yan and Zhou Yang? Did you call them over too? She didn't even ask how Yang Yang's illness was. All she cares about is our whereabouts and the trouble it causes her. Grandma let out a cold laugh. Lu Fang, how dare you even ask about the kids? I should be asking you, where the hell were you when Yang Yang got sick yesterday? Is this how you're supposed to be a mother? Leaving your sick child at home while you go out to play mahjong? Is your heart made of stone? The grandmother's words rained down on Lu Fang like a barrage. Lu Fang on the other end of the line was left speechless for a long time. Immediately, she erupted. You old fool, who do you think you are to lecture me? He's my son. I can do whatever I want with him. Where's Zhou Jianya? Tell him to get his ass on the phone. Is he right there with you? If he wants out, he can damn well say it to my face. What kind of man disappears with the kids? She was starting to throw a fit. This is her usual trick. Grandma's face also darkened completely. Lu Fang, I'm going to make it clear to you today. Jianya and the kids are all with me. They are never coming back to that house. You want to play mahjong, don't you? Fine. You can have the house all to yourself. Stay in there and play until the sky falls. Play until you drop dead. No one will care. As for my son, my grandson, and my granddaughter, from this day forward, they have nothing more to do with you. With that, Grandma slammed the phone down with a sharp click. She couldn't even be bothered to listen to Lu Fang's roaring and cursing anymore. The living room was deathly silent. Her father's face was as pale as paper. Grandma's words were the final straw, completely tearing apart any pretense of civility. He was completely cornered, with no way out. Mom, he spoke with difficulty. His grandmother turned around and looked at him. His gaze was more resolute than ever before. Jianya, you're a man. When it's time to cut ties, you must cut them clean. Continuing will only harm you, and it will hurt Yan Yan and Yang Yang. It's your choice. Dad closed his eyes in pain. I know he's struggling with his final decision, and all I need to do is add the final straw. I walked over to him and gently took his hand. His hand was cold and trembling slightly. Dad, I looked up at him. There were no tears in my eyes, only a calmness that didn't match my age. I don't want to go home, I said. That home, without Yang Yang's laughter, without your care, only has the sound of Mom playing mahjong. Clatter, clatter. As soon as I hear that sound, I get scared. I'm afraid my brother might disappear. I'm afraid you'll abandon us too. My voice was barely a whisper, yet it landed like a sledgehammer, crushing my father's heart. His eyes snapped open. He looked at my face, pretending to be strong, and saw the fear hidden deep in my eyes. In one swift motion, he pulled me tightly into his embrace. It won't happen. His voice was hoarse and choked with emotion. Dad would never abandon you, never. I buried my face in his chest, a cold, bitter smile curling at the corner of my mouth. I know, I won, as expected. It didn't take long. From downstairs, the honking of a car could be heard. Following that, came Lu Fang's sharp, tantrum-like shouting, Zhou Jianya, get your ass down here. If you've got the guts, say it to my face. Hiding behind your mother is pathetic. She's here. Not only is she here, but she's brought back up. A black sedan was parked downstairs. Two people got out of the car, my grandfather and grandmother. They had come to back up their precious daughter. Grandma walked to the window and glanced downstairs. Her face turned ghastly pale in an instant. This family is going too far. Dad also stood up and walked to the window, watching the arrogant and domineering family of three downstairs. The last trace of hesitation and warmth in his eyes finally vanished. In its place, there was an unprecedented coldness and decisiveness. Mom, he said, open the door, let them come up. Today, I'm going to settle everything, once and for all. 11. The doorbell was being pounded with a deafening fury, as if trying to rip the old security door right off its hinges. Again and again, each ring was laced with impatience and provocation. Grandma's face turned ashen. She strode over and yanked the door open with a violent pull. Standing at the doorway were Lu Fang and her parents, my grandfather Lu Jinhua, with a beer belly and an official demeanor, my grandmother Li Qin, with fashionable curls, a downturned mouth, and a harsh expression. As soon as they entered, what they brought was not a willingness to solve the problem, but a sense of accusation and pressure. Mother-in-law, what do you mean by this? As soon as Grandma Li Qin opened her mouth, her tone was dripping with sarcasm. You just left our Fang Fang all alone at home and ran off with the kid. Is this how you Zhou family treat people. Lu Fang stood behind her parents, her eyes red and brimming with a look of utter grievance, as if she had suffered the greatest injustice. I bully people. The grandma was so angry she laughed. I'd like to ask you all, how do you raise your daughters, leaving a sick child at home and going out to play cards? Is that how a mother should behave? Hey, you can't say it like that. Grandpa Lu Jinghua finally spoke up. Full of bureaucratic tone, kids will get minor illnesses from time to time. It's nothing to be overly delicate about. Feng Feng is young. It's natural for her to be a bit playful. Jianya is a man and a husband, so he should be more understanding and tolerant. With these words, he casually dismissed Lu Feng's negligence as simply being playful. They twisted my father's pain into a sign of his petty-mindedness. How shameless, and how utterly ridiculous. Forgiveness. My father, who had remained silent all this time, finally spoke. His voice was icy, devoid of warmth. He stepped out from behind his grandmother, staring directly at the Lu family. Haven't I been tolerant enough? She spends every day gambling outside with the money you gave her. I've tolerated that. I put up with her neglect of this family and her indifference toward the children. But how can I possibly tolerate her leaving a sick youngling home alone just to go play cards? While I was taking the kid to the hospital, she called, not to ask how the child was, but to demand I bring her gambling money, and I'm supposed to put up with that. He practically shouted that last sentence. Years of pent-up resentment and humiliation erupted all at once. The grandparents' expressions shifted. They probably never expected their usually meek and submissive son-in-law to dare speak to them like that today. Lu Fang, for her part, screeched like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Zhou Jianya, what are you yelling about? Did I say anything wrong? Isn't Yang just having a stomachache? What's the big deal? You insist on making a scene at the hospital, letting everyone know. Isn't that just to embarrass me? You're doing this on purpose. Look, it's come to this point. She's still hung up on her pride. She still believes this is all a setup to embarrass her. In this woman's mind, there's only room for herself and her mahjong. I embarrass you. Father let out a bitter laugh. Lu Fang, you're the one who threw your own dignity on the ground and trampled it. I finally see it clearly. In your heart, the three of us, your husband and sons, combined aren't worth as much as a single mahjong table. That's right, Lu Fang shouted recklessly. I love playing mahjong. So what? I married you, Zhou Jianya, not to be your nanny. You can't even make enough money to give me a good life, and you have the nerve to tell me I can't have a little fun. What kind of a man are you? You can't even indulge your wife in this one little thing, and you still have the gall to criticize me. Dad was so angry that he was trembling all over, pointing at her but unable to say a word. The grandparents immediately stepped forward, shielding their beloved daughter on either side. Jianya, let's talk this through calmly. There's no need to argue. Grandmother Li Qin began to play the peacemaker. Feng Feng might be a bit blunt with her words, but she truly cares about this family. Married couples, they argue at night and make up by morning. Take our advice, go home with Feng Feng and the child. Life is still meant to be lived well. Go home. I looked at the hypocritical expressions on that family's faces and sneered inwardly. Do they really think a few empty words can just make everything okay? Do they think Dad is still the same pushover he used to be? Right then, I gently tugged at the hem of my father's shirt. All eyes in the room turned to me. I stepped up from behind my father. I didn't look at Lu Fang, nor at my grandparents. I only looked at my father. My eyes were clear and bright. Dad, I spoke, my voice not loud, but clearly reaching everyone's ears. How did my brother and I find you yesterday? Dad paused for a moment, then understood what I meant. It was you who, with your brother, first found Uncle Lee at the entrance of the community and had him call me. Then, you went alone, carrying your brother, on a bus ride that took over an hour to reach my factory. Your colleagues at the factory all saw it. The security guards in the community also saw it. My voice remained calm. Dad, if something had happened to me and my brother yesterday, for example, if we had encountered bad people on the road, or if my brother's illness was really serious and treatment was delayed, who should bear the consequences? I looked up, my gaze finally turning to Lu Fang. Is it you, Mom? You were at Aunt Wang's house, happily playing mahjong. You can't even be bothered to answer the phone, will you? Take responsibility for this. My words are like a sharp scalpel, precisely dissecting the most painful wound in this family. It completely tore away the mask of innocence that Lu Fang had been wearing. Lu Fang's face instantly drained of all color. She opened her mouth to refute, but found she couldn't utter a single word, because every word I said was the truth. It was an undeniable fact that she couldn't refute no matter what. The expressions on her grandparents' faces turned extremely grim. They probably didn't expect that this usually quiet granddaughter had such sharp wit. How dare you talk to your mother like that? My maternal grandmother, Li Qin, scolded me with a stern voice that betrayed her inner weakness. Who do you think you are, interrupting adults? You have no manners at all. Isn't what she said the truth? Grandma stepped forward, shielding me behind her, and glared at her angrily. Your daughter is completely irresponsible. She nearly got 2 children hurt, and instead of disciplining her, you have the nerve to blame my granddaughter, the way your Lu family raises its children is truly an eye-opener. The parents from both sides were on the verge of a full-blown argument. Enough, Dad spoke up. His voice was not loud, but carried authority. He gave Lu Feng a long, deep look. There was no anger or resentment in that gaze, a profound and utter despair, shrouded in complete silence. Then he turned to his grandparents. He spoke clearly, word by word. Dad, Mom, thank you for coming today. It saves me from making another trip. Let's get a divorce. These 4 words were like a thunderclap, exploding loudly in the small living room. Everyone was stunned. The color drained from Lu Feng's face. She stared at her father in disbelief, as if seeing him for the first time. Shock was written all over the faces of her grandparents. Jianya, what nonsense are you talking? Grandma shrieked. I'm not talking nonsense. Dad's tone was terrifyingly calm. I am perfectly clear-headed. This divorce is happening. I'm set on it. No one can change my mind. 12. Divorce. Zhou Jianya, say that again. Finally snapping out of her shock, Lu Feng let out a hysterical scream. She lunged at her father, her hands flying up to claw at his face. How dare you ask me for a divorce? What gives you the right? Everything you eat and wear comes from my family. Even the down payment for this house was paid by my parents. After the divorce, you'll be penniless. And you think you can take my son? In your dreams. Dad didn't flinch. He let Lu Feng's nails rake across his face, leaving several bloody scratches. He just coldly stared at her, that gaze, as if looking at a stranger, a clown, jumping around, completely unrelated to him. His utter calmness infuriated Lu Feng completely. This also brought unprecedented panic to Grandpa and Grandma. They knew that this time, Zhou Jianya was dead serious. Jianya, don't do anything rash. Grandpa Lu Jinghua hurried forward and pulled Lu Feng aside. He adopted a tone of grave and earnest advice. Like a concerned elder, what couple doesn't have their arguments? For the sake of the child, please think it over carefully. Feng knows she was wrong. She'll do better from now on, he said, while giving Lu Feng a meaningful look, but Lu Feng was having none of it. What do I need to change? I'm not wrong. She pulled away from her grandfather's hand and pointed at her father's nose. Listen up, Zhou Jianya, you want a divorce? Fine. The house is mine, and I'm keeping both kids. You can walk away with nothing. On top of that, I want 3,000 more in child support every month. She laid out the condition she believed was the harshest, the one most likely to make her father cave. However, her father merely responded with a cold, derisive snort. Fine, you can have the house, he said. I acknowledge that your family paid the down payment, but you're not taking a single child with you, especially not Yang Yang. A mother as irresponsible as you doesn't deserve custody. I will take you to court and tell the judge everything that happened today. Uncle Lee, the security guard in our community, my colleagues from the factory, and the doctors at the hospital, they can all testify for me, to prove how you neglected your sick son to play mahjong. Who do you think the judge will award custody to? Her father's words were well-reasoned and logically sound. Each word landed like a sledgehammer, pounding directly into Lu Feng's heart. She was completely panicked. She didn't care about the house or the money, because she knew her parents would give her anything she asked for. But her son, Zhou Yang, he was her foothold in the Zhou family, her future leverage for money from her parents, and most importantly, her grandmother's pride and joy. If she lost custody of Zhou Yang, she would truly have nothing left. You wouldn't dare. Her voice began to tremble. Just watch me. There was not a flicker of doubt in father's eyes. Even the grandparents could see it. The situation today had spiraled completely out of control. Zhou Jianya was no longer the weak, easily manipulated son-in-law they could push around. Cornered and with no way out, he finally bared his fangs. Seeing her threats were getting nowhere, Grandma Li Qin immediately switched tactics. With a heavy thud, she plopped down onto the floor. She began wailing loudly, slapping her thighs in despair. Why is my life so miserable? What on earth did I do to deserve this? Did I raise my daughter with such hardship just for her to come to your Zhou family and be treated like this? You're all ganging up to bully our Feng. This life is unbearable. I don't want to live anymore. She started throwing a tantrum, rolling around, trying to turn the situation around with this method. If this were the past, Dad might have really softened and given in, but not today. His heart had turned to stone. He just watched his wailing grandmother on the floor with cold indifference, as if observing a farce that had nothing to do with him. His grandmother certainly wasn't buying her act. Enough, stop that wailing. Grandma let out a cold shout. Do you think this is a marketplace? Your Lu family's daughter is a treasure, but our Zhou family's son isn't worth anyone's care. Are my grandchildren just meant to be mistreated by her? We've said all there is to say today. Anything more is pointless. Either we settle this amicably with a divorce, the child stays with the Zhou family, and we can be flexible on the house and savings, or, we'll see you in court. Let's see who ends up with egg on their face then. Grandma's words were final, slamming the door on their last remaining path. Grandpa Lu Jingguo's face alternated between green and white. He knew that continuing to make a scene would only make things worse. Finally, he gritted his teeth and made a decision. He walked over and pulled his grandmother, who was still throwing a tantrum on the ground, to her feet. Enough, stop embarrassing yourself here, he spoke in a low voice. Then, he looked at his father with a complex expression. Jianya, since you've made your decision, we won't force you, we'll discuss the divorce. However, I have only one request, it must not go to court. We can't let outsiders laugh at both our families. Dad looked at him and nodded. All right. In the end, he still cared about that pitiful shred of dignity. Perhaps it was to avoid making things too tragic. My grandfather looked at him deeply, then at me. Finally, his gaze fell on Zhou Yang, who was asleep on the sofa. There was a flicker of reluctance in his eyes, but he said nothing. He took the distraught Lu Fang and the resentful-looking grandmother by the hand, turned, and walked away. The door closed behind them. The heart-stopping confrontation had finally come to an end. The living room regained its calm. It resembled the ruins after a great battle, filled with exhaustion and desolation. Dad slowly walked over to the sofa. He reached out and gently stroked Zhou Yang's cheek. Then, he slowly crouched down. He buried his face in the soft cushion of the sofa. I couldn't see his expression, but I heard his long, relieved sigh that had been suppressed for so long. I know, from this moment on, we are all free now. The nightmare named Lu Fang, the curse known as Mahjong, at last, it was about to vanish completely from our lives. I walked over to Dad and, following his lead, crouched down beside him. I gently placed my hand on his back. Dad, I said, it's all over. My father's body shuddered slightly. He turned his head and looked at me. His eyes were bloodshot. Within, there was pain, relief, confusion, but more than anything, a clarity that had never been there before. Yin Yin, he reached out and pulled me, along with the sleeping Zhou Yang, into a tight embrace. I'm sorry, he said. It's because I'm useless as a father. I've made you suffer so much. It won't happen again. Dad promises. It will never happen again. I quietly leaned against his chest, feeling his strong yet slightly trembling arms. My heart is a still pond. Father, your apology comes too late. I stopped needing it long ago, but for my brother's sake, and for a peaceful life in this world, I'm willing to give you a chance to start over. I just hope, this time, don't let me down again. 13. The divorce process moved faster than expected. Perhaps Grandpa Lu Jingguo pulled some strings. He was more afraid of this escalating and affecting his reputation than anyone else. Lu Fang and her family never showed up at Grandma's house again. All communication is conducted through lawyers. Dad's attitude is very firm. He only wants custody of my brother and me. He is willing to give up everything else, the house, savings, and even the appliances that the Lu family provided as dowry when they got married. He didn't want any of it. This resolute attitude left the Lu family at a loss. Their greatest skill was using money and material possessions to exploit his weaknesses, but when a person no longer cares about even these things, they have already lost. 1 week later, Dad held the stamped divorce papers in his hands, just a few sheets of paper, yet they felt as heavy as a mountain. He stared at the document for a long time, then, he finally let out a long, deep sigh of relief. It was as if a burden I had carried for half my life had been lifted. It's all over, he said to Grandma and me. Grandma nodded, her eyes growing a little moist. An ending is also a new beginning. Jianya, from now on, take good care of the children and live well. Yes, Dad, we'll make a good life for ourselves, I said with a smile, but deep down, I knew, it's not over yet. Lu Fang, that obsessive and unhinged woman, she won't let this go so easily. She's bound to have one last, desperate act. Indeed, the next day, my dad got a call from the property management. They said there was a huge crashing and smashing noise coming from our apartment. The neighbors called the police. The police asked us to come over and handle it. Dad's face instantly darkened. Stay at Grandma's house, don't go anywhere, he said to my brother and me. I'll go with you. Grandma stood up. Let's see what trick she's trying to pull now. Dad hesitated for a moment, then finally nodded. He knew that when it came to dealing with Lu Fang, his grandmother was the more formidable opponent. They left. I settled my brother down to watch cartoons. Then, I walked over to the telephone. I picked up the receiver. and dialed my grandfather Lu Jingguo's office number. It was a number I had, by chance, memorized in a past life. "Hello, who is this?" From the other end of the line came my grandfather's authoritative voice. I didn't say a word. I simply held the phone receiver up to the television. On the screen, Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf was playing. The cheerful music and childish dialogue traveled through the phone line. "Hey, speak up. Who's playing tricks here?" The voice of my grandpa, full of impatience. I still didn't speak. I wanted to make him anxious and puzzled, keep him guessing about who was behind that mysterious call and what they really wanted. I hung up the phone. I waited in silence. I knew that Lu Feng's final act needed a bigger audience. Her biological father was, without a doubt, the best candidate. An hour later, Dad and Grandma returned. Their faces were etched with exhaustion and anger. Grandma's sleeve was also torn. That crazy old lady. As soon as Grandma entered the house, she was so angry that she started patting her chest. She smashed everything breakable in the house, the furniture, the appliances, even those old photos your parents left behind. She tore them all up. "That's not a home, it's a dump." Dad sat on the sofa in silence, smoking one cigarette after another. In his eyes was a smoldering rage and profound sorrow. That was their former marital home. It was the home he once thought he could share for a lifetime, and now it has been destroyed by the woman he once loved, with her own hands. "Where is she?" I asked softly. "Her parents came and picked her up," Dad said, his voice hoarse. "The police were already there when we arrived. Her father got our call and rushed over." Seeing that scene, his old face was completely humiliated. He didn't say a word and just took her away. I nodded, just as I expected. I want my grandfather to see it with his own eyes, to see just how deranged and despicable his precious, coddled daughter truly is. I want him to know, divorce is not a Zhou family bullying her. It was she herself who ruined everything. She was still cursing when she left. Grandma added indignantly, "Call me an old hag, and your dad a good-for-nothing, and they keep insulting." The grandmother glanced at me and didn't continue. I knew what she wanted to say. She must be cursing me as a little slut, a jinx, the one who ruined her good life. "It's okay. Go ahead and curse me. The more viciously you curse, the more you prove my success. Lu Feng, your madness will only strip you of your last shred of dignity. It will also leave your parents utterly disappointed in you, and I will step on your ruins. With my family, we will embrace a new beginning." That night, Dad made a decision. "We're not keeping that house," he said to Grandma and me. "We're leaving everything inside. I'll call the agent tomorrow and sell it. We'll find a new place and start over." Grandma nodded in agreement. "That works too. That place is too inauspicious. Sell it and cut all ties completely." I looked at my father, although there was still pain on his face, but in his eyes, there was a light that had never been seen before. That was the light of hope for the future. 14. The house sold smoothly. Perhaps it was due to the good location, or maybe Dad was eager to sell, but the price was set quite low. After receiving the payment, the first thing Dad did was to repay the down payment that his grandfather had helped with back then. He transferred the money to grandfather's bank account. Then he sent a text message: "The debt is settled, we're even." From that day on, the Zhou family and the Lu family were completely severed, with no ties whatsoever. Dad didn't squander the remaining money. He rented a 2-bedroom apartment near Grandma's place. The apartment was small, but clean and full of sunlight. On the day we moved, we didn't hire a moving company. Grandma, Dad, me, and little Zhou Yang, our family of 4. Like diligent ants, bit by bit, we filled this new home. Dad went to the flea market and brought back a sturdy wooden bed and desk. Grandma brought out her treasured cotton, which she used to make a soft, fluffy new bedding. I took care of cleaning everything until it was spotless. Zhou Yang, acting like a little grown-up, ran around clutching his Ultraman figure. "Sister, Ultraman's home is here." He solemnly placed the toys in the corner of the living room. Sunlight streamed in through the window. It shone on the beads of sweat on Dad's forehead, on Grandma's gray hair, and on the smiles of my brother and me. The entire house was filled with the warm, homely scent of life. This is the home I've always wanted. No deafening mahjong sounds, no hysterical arguments, no cold neglect and calculations, just the company of family and the love we share. In the evening, we had our first meal in our new home together. Grandma made her signature dish, braised pork. Dad, for once, opened a bottle of beer. He poured a full glass of orange juice for me and Zhou Yang. "Here," he raised the glass, "to new beginnings. Cheers to the new life." We clink our glasses together. The crisp sound of glass clinking echoed in the small room. It was the most beautiful music I've ever heard. After dinner, Dad played with Zhou Yang in the living room, building with blocks. Meanwhile, I helped Grandma wash the dishes in the kitchen. "Yin Yin," Grandma said to me while she dried a plate, "you've really been through a lot lately." I knew exactly what she was referring to. "It's nothing, Grandma." I shook my head. "It's not bitter at all now. The grandmother sighed, her eyes filled with guilt. It's my fault, grandmother. In the past, grandmother, I misunderstood you. She finally uttered that long overdue apology at the scene from my past life, where she pointed at my nose and called me a jinx, still lingers vividly in my mind. That is a deep scar in my heart. I looked at her aged, deeply lined face. I saw the genuine remorse in her eyes, the last vestiges of resentment in my heart finally dissolved. She was merely a pitiful old woman, shackled by tradition and blinded by her son and grandson. After learning the truth, she stood firmly on our side, more resolutely than anyone else. Grandma, it's all in the past now. I reached out and gave her a hug. What matters most is that we live well together from now on. Grandma's body went rigid for a moment. Immediately, she reached out with her calloused hand and gently patted my back. Hey, good child, you're truly my good granddaughter. Coming out of the kitchen, Dad had already coaxed Zhou Yang to sleep. He sat on the sofa, looking at me with gentle eyes. Yin Yin, come here, I need to talk to you. I walked over and sat down beside him. What is it, Dad? He fell silent for a long time, as if searching for the right words. Son, I'm sorry. He finally spoke, his voice a little hoarse. In the past, I was too weak. You were so concerned about your own pride that you failed to see all the hardships you and your mother endured. Together, I also didn't protect you and Yang well. It's my fault, Dad. This was the first time he formally apologized to me. My heart gave a faint tremble. Dad, I don't blame you, I said. I know it's hard for you, too. No, he shook his head, interrupting me. Difficulty is not an excuse. As a father, as a husband, I failed, and that is a failure. He looked at me, his eyes filled with utter seriousness. Yin Yin, don't worry. From now on, Dad will do everything in his power to protect you both. No one will ever bully you two again. I looked at him. I gazed at his face, no longer young but filled with determination. My eyes felt a bit warm. In my past life, this was the one thing I longed for the most. Unfortunately, I never got to see it before I died, but in this life, I finally heard it. I nodded firmly. Yes, I trust my dad. That night, I slept with an unusual sense of peace. In my new room, on my new bed, I had a beautiful dream. In the dream, there was no cold cabinet, no vicious curses. There was only the warm sunlight and the smiling faces of my father, grandmother, and younger brother. Yet, even a peaceful life is never without its shadows. A few days later, I went to school. At the school gate, I saw someone I least wanted to see. It was Lu Feng. She had lost a lot of weight, her face was haggard, and her eyes were sinister. She just stared at me, unblinkingly, like a venomous snake lying in wait. My heart sank instantly. I knew it. She was here for me. She won't just let me off the hook like that. 15. She stood there on the opposite side of the school, across the street, glaring at me intently. Her gaze was no longer the condescending disdain it used to be. It was a raw, venomous hatred, filled with resentment, and, as if I were the one who had ruined her entire life, I ignored her. I just tightened my grip on my backpack strap and walked into the school gate, my face expressionless. I couldn't afford to be afraid. The more afraid I was, the more smug she became. I knew she wouldn't dare do anything at the school gate. She just came to assert her presence. She just came to add to my mental distress. She wanted to see me panic, to see me terrified. I refused to give her that satisfaction. I felt restless and uneasy all day. I was afraid she might do something reckless, for instance, causing trouble at our new home or harming Grandma and my brother. After school, I practically ran home. When I burst through the door, gasping for breath, and saw Grandma and my brother safe and sound watching TV, my anxious heart finally settled. What's wrong, Yin Yin? Why are you in such a hurry? Grandma asked with concern. It's nothing. I just wanted to get home early, I said with a smile, not telling her about seeing Lu Feng. I didn't want her to worry. During dinner, Dad noticed something was off with me. Yin Yin, is something on your mind? He put a piece of spare rib in my bowl. I hesitated for a moment, but decided to tell him anyway. Dad, I saw her today, at the school gate. I didn't say her name, but I knew Dad would understand. Sure enough, Dad's hand, holding his chopsticks, paused midair. His brow furrowed instantly. What did she say to you? What did she do? His tone suddenly grew tense. Nothing. I shook my head. She was standing across the street, watching me. My father's expression darkened. This persistent woman. He muttered a curse under his breath. Don't worry, Dad. I'm not afraid of her. I tried to reassure him. No. Dad's tone was resolute and unwavering. We can't just let this go. If she dares to ambush you at school today, she'll dare to do something even worse tomorrow. I have to put a stop to her ideas for good. The next day, Dad took the day off. He didn't tell me what he was going to do, but from that day on, Lu Feng never showed up at my school gate again. It wasn't until much later that I pieced together the truth from my grandmother's fragmented words. That day, my father went to my grandfather's workplace alone. He didn't argue or make a scene. He just Sat outside my grandfather's office, sat from the start of work until the end. He said nothing, ignoring everyone who asked, just sat there, silently, engaged in the most resolute resistance through this silent means. He was determined to make sure everyone at his grandfather's workplace saw it. Zhou Jianye had been pushed to the absolute brink. He would also show everyone how Lu Jinhua had failed as a father. With his family in utter disarray, Grandpa was most concerned about his reputation. Dad's move hit him right where it hurt the most. By the end of the day, Grandpa was nearly broken. He finally realized that this once timid son-in-law had completely changed. He became a madman who would do anything for his child. In the end, Grandpa gave in. He assured Dad that he would send Lu Feng away immediately, to a place where we would never see her again. From that day on, all contact between our two families ceased. In his own way, Dad kept his promise. He truly gave everything he had to protect us. Only then did our lives truly get back on track. Dad quit his cushy job as a factory purchasing agent. With the money left over from selling the house, he partnered with a friend and opened a small hardware store. He worked from dawn till dusk every day, hauling stock, making deliveries, and keeping the books. He got tanned and lost weight, but his eyes grew brighter and brighter. That was the glow of struggle reignited by life. Grandma helps us prepare meals every day and takes care of our daily needs. Her face is also filled with more and more smiles. Zhou Yang, my younger brother, thrived in a loving environment. He became increasingly lively and outgoing. As for me, I finally got to live like a real child. I poured all my energy into my studies. My grades skyrocketed, and I quickly became the top student in my grade. I no longer needed to use adult reasoning to scheme or guard against others. All I needed to do was study hard and strive for progress every day, keep my family safe, then turn towards the sun and grow. Time is the best healer. It mends wounds and fades hatred. Sometimes, I still think of Lu Feng. I remember her face from my past life, twisted with madness. I remember how she, with her own hands, pushed me into hell. In my heart, there is no hatred left, only a cold indifference remains. She is nothing but a pitiful soul devoured by greed and selfishness. She's not worth a single shred of my emotions anymore. In this life, I have rewritten the destinies of my brother and me. It gave Dad a second chance, too. That was enough. On a bright, sunny weekend, Dad took my brother and me to the park to fly a kite. The kite flew very, very high. My brother ran happily across the grass, laughing. Dad stood beside me, watching the kite in the sky and my brother on the ground, with a satisfied smile on his face. Yin Yan, he suddenly said to me, "Thank you." I was momentarily stunned. "What are you thanking me for?" He turned his head and looked at me, his gaze softer and more earnest than ever before. "Thank you, my daughter. It was you who gave your father a new lease on life." I smiled under the sunlight. My smile is radiant. Yes, we all got a second chance at life. That's wonderful. 16. Time is a slow and steady river. It washes away the dust and smooths the edges. 6 years have passed in a blink. We have long since moved from that temporary rental into a spacious and bright 3-bedroom apartment. This is the home Dad bought with the money he earned himself, a warm fortress, truly our own. Thanks to Dad's painstaking efforts, the hardware store's business grew steadily. It started as a single small shopfront and has now grown into a modest operation with 2 storefronts and 2 hired hands. Dad was no longer the timid, people-pleasing procurement clerk. He became the pillar of the family. Time etched fine lines at the corners of his eyes and forged steel into his spine. He spoke little, but every glance was filled with strength and reassurance. Grandma's hair had turned completely white, yet her spirit was brighter than ever before. She no longer had to fume over her son's incompetence or battle wits with her troublesome daughter-in-law. Her daily mission was to pore over cookbooks and whip up delicious meals for us, watching my brother and me grow taller, like bamboo shoots, inch by inch. Zhou Yang, my younger brother, is already a sturdy 3rd-grade elementary school student. He is healthy, lively, and even a bit mischievous. He has no memory of anything before the age of 3. In his world, the word mom was perfectly replaced by the roles of grandmother and sister. He would cling to his grandmother's arm and pout, and he would secretly hide his failed test papers in my backpack. He was the brightest ray of sunshine in this family, and me. I am about to face the most crucial battle of my life, the college entrance exams. I became a senior in high school. My grades have consistently been the top of my class. I've won every possible award and scholarship. They were solemnly plastered all over my room by my father. I know I'm not just doing this for myself. I am the pride of this family, and the greatest hope of my father and grandmother. I must excel, so outstanding that it allows us to forget all the past humiliations, so outstanding that it ensures us a bright future, one that no one can take away. Our life is peaceful, tranquil, and filled with hope. As if that nightmare of mahjong and betrayal was just a forgotten chapter of the past, until that Saturday. Afternoon that day, Dad was busy at the shop, and Grandma went visiting the neighbors at home. It was just Zhou Yang and me. I'm working on a practice test in my room. Zhou Yang was in the living room on the phone with a classmate, making plans to play soccer together in the afternoon. Sister, I'm going out to play. Before leaving, he ran to my room door and poked his little head in. Got it. Don't be late. I didn't even look up, my pen racing across the scratch paper as I worked through the calculations. I'll bring you back an ice pop. He gave a cheeky grin and ran out. I heard the heavy thud of the security door slamming shut. I thought he had left. I was completely absorbed in complex functions and formulas, oblivious to everything happening around me. I have no idea how much time had passed. I finished the last major problem and let out a long, deep sigh of relief. I glanced at the time. Over an hour had already passed. I stood up, stretched my stiff neck, and headed to the living room to pour a glass of water. However, as I stepped out of the room, I felt that something was off. Too quiet. The living room is empty. My brother's sneakers are still neatly placed on the shoe rack by the door. I frowned. What's that rascal up to now? Zhou Yang. I called out. No response. Zhou Yang, stop messing around. Get out here. I raised my voice. It remained eerily silent. A very bad feeling suddenly surged in my heart. I began searching the house, the kitchen, the bathroom, the balcony. In none of them. My heart sank bit by bit. Finally, my gaze settled on the tall, custom-built storage cabinet in the living room. My dad had it specially made to increase our storage space. The cabinet doors were the push-to-open kind, with no handles. A simple press from the outside would make them pop open. I walked over, tentatively, and pressed on the cabinet door. The cabinet door popped open with a click. Then, I saw Zhou Yang. His small body curled up in the darkness of the cabinet. He buried his head deep in his knees. His body was shaking violently, uncontrollably. It was as if he wanted to play hide-and-seek with me. He had hidden himself away, but didn't know how to come back out. Yang. I called out to him, tentatively. His head jerked up. I saw his small, pale face, streaked with tears and contorted with fear. His eyes were bloodshot, and his pupils were dilated. His lips trembled, but no sound came out. Yang, what's wrong? Don't be scared. I'm here. I reached out, wanting to pull him out, but as soon as my hand touched him, he recoiled as if struck by lightning. Then, he let out a heart-wrenching, inhuman scream. The sound was filled with utter terror and despair, like a yen beast, trapped and thrashing in its death throes. In that instant, my heart felt as if seized by an invisible, crushing hand. The pain was so intense, I could scarcely breathe. Visions from a past life, unbidden, flooded my mind like a tidal wave. A cold, tiny body, black-purple crumbs at the corner of the mouth. That afternoon, my brother who would never wake up again. Yang. Like a madwoman, I rushed over, ignoring his struggles. I held him tight and pulled him out. His body was burning hot, yet trembling uncontrollably. Don't be scared. It's okay, Yang. I repeated myself, over and over, my words a tangled mess. Tears blurred my vision. I thought we had moved past it. I thought time had healed all wounds, but I was wrong. That demon, though it has disappeared from our lives, but the scars she left have already etched themselves into the very essence of each of us. It lurks in the darkest depths of our memories. Just a similar situation, a trivial trigger, it will immediately bare its bloody fangs, dragging us back into that endless abyss. 17. Zhou Yang's panic attack was like a boulder dropped into the still waters of our lives, sending massive waves crashing through our peace. Dad and Grandma were absolutely terrified when they found out. Dad immediately took Zhou Yang to see a psychologist. The diagnosis confirmed my suspicions. It is a severe, stress-induced psychological disorder. The doctor said this trauma stems from a significant shock during childhood, although he no longer remembers the specifics of what happened, but the fear of being abandoned in darkness and confined spaces has become a part of his subconscious. Once triggered, it can provoke intense physiological and psychological reactions. The outcome pierced my father's and grandmother's hearts like a knife. My father, especially, he sat by Zhou Yang's bedside the entire night without closing his eyes. He looked at his son's face, still furrowed with worry even in sleep. His eyes were filled with self-blame, regret, and endless fear. If only he hadn't been so cowardly back then, if only he had taken us away sooner, then maybe Yang wouldn't have had to bear this pain that was never meant for him. I sat in the living room, listening to my father's stifled, low sighs coming from the other room. My heart turned to ice. Lu Fang did you see it? Even though you've been out of our lives, your sins still haunt us like a relentless parasite. None of us could ever truly find release. This incident cast a long, dark shadow over our home. We all began to tread very carefully. My father removed the doors from every cabinet in the house. Even when sleeping, Zhou Yang's bedroom door had to be left slightly ajar. With the doctor's intervention, Zhou Yang's emotions gradually stabilized. It seems he has also forgotten what happened that afternoon, he became that cheerful, playful boy once again, but we all know, something has changed, that invisible scar will remain there, forever. Life must go on. The day of the college entrance exam is drawing ever closer. I bottled up all my emotions deep inside. I threw myself into my studies with even more frantic intensity. I needed a goal, something to make me forget all the unhappiness. I needed a win to lift the gloom hanging over our home. It was 1 month before the college entrance exams. On a quiet afternoon, I received a letter. The envelope was a faded yellow, very old. There was no sender's address or name on it, only a crooked postmark. The recipient was written as my name, Zhou Yin. The handwriting is unfamiliar. I opened the envelope with some confusion. Inside were several sheets of paper. The paper was thin, carrying the distinct, antiseptic smell of a hospital. I unfolded the letter. The handwriting was that of an old man. The script trembled slightly, a quiver born of both emotion and age. Yin Yin, my granddaughter, I am your grandmother. Seeing these words, my pupils suddenly contracted. My breath also stopped instantly. It's her, Li Qin, Lu Fang's mother, that old woman who once pointed her finger in my face and called me ill-bred. How could she write to me? My first instinct was to tear up this letter and throw it in the trash. I don't want any further involvement with that family. But my hands wouldn't obey. Unknowingly, I kept reading. The letter was very long. My grandmother's tone was no longer the harsh and domineering one I remembered. Instead, it was filled with a kind of humble pleading. She wrote in her letter, Lu Fang was dying. After being forcibly sent away by her grandfather, Lu Fang went to a small city in the south. Her grandfather cut off her financial support, hoping she would reform, but she only escalated her behavior. She got into even worse gambling and lost all her money. To pay off her gambling debts, she started drinking and hanging out with shady men. Her life had completely fallen apart in the end. She fell ill, liver cancer, advanced stage. By the time her grandparents found her, she was already emaciated, a mere shadow of her former self. The doctor said she didn't have much time left. In the letter, Grandma wrote, during her lucid moments, Lu Fang refused to see anyone and wouldn't utter a single word, but sometimes, I'd find myself alone, gazing out the window, murmuring 2 names under my breath, Zhou Yin. Zhou Yang. Grandma said she knew that her Lu family had wronged us. They have no face to ask for our forgiveness. She doesn't expect us to forgive Lu Fang. She merely has, as a mother, a final bit of selfishness. She wants to ask, could you let Lu Fang, before she dies, just one last meeting with her child, even if it's only from a distance, just a glance. Yin Yin, your grandmother is begging you. Think of it as having pity on an old woman who's not long for this world. It would also help your mother. Rest in peace. The letter ended with these words. It also included the hospital's address and the ward number. I finished reading the entire letter. My hand did not tremble. My heart remained utterly still. There was no anger, no sorrow, not even a shred of pity, only a desolate, deathly silence. Death. This phrase feels all too familiar to me. In my past life, that's exactly how I died, alone, consumed by despair and sickness. Back then, who showed me any pity? Lu Fang. Are you finally getting a taste of that bitterness now? I gazed out the window as the setting sun painted the sky a bloody red. How ironic. Is this the karma I deserve? I slowly folded the letter back up. I put it back into the envelope. Then, I pulled open the drawer and tossed it into the very back. I decided to bury the secret in my heart forever. I wouldn't tell Dad. Don't tell Grandma. There is no longer anyone in this world named Lu Fang. Everything about her has nothing to do with us. 18. I thought I could pretend like nothing ever happened. I thought that by locking away that letter, I could lock away that name along with it, but I overestimated myself. That letter was like a poison thorn, embedded deep in my heart. During the day, I desperately tried to lose myself in a sea of practice problems, using complex formulas and obscure ancient texts to numb my nerves. But as soon as night falls, when the night is deep and quiet, those words would creep out from the cracks of the drawer. It haunts my mind, swirling and lingering. Liver cancer, terminal stage, emaciated, barely human, muttering, whispering our names. These words and phrases haunted me like a curse. I began to suffer from insomnia. I lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling. I don't know what I'm really thinking. Do I hate her? Absolutely. She's the one who ruined my life and almost destroyed my brothers. This hatred runs bone deep. But when I found out she was about to die in such a wretched, undignified way, yet, in my heart, there was none of the imagined satisfaction of vengeance, only an indescribable sense of restlessness and bewilderment. Dad and Grandma quickly noticed something was off with me. Yin Yin, have you been pushing yourself too hard lately? Look at you, you've got dark circles under your eyes. The college entrance exam is important, but your health comes first. Don't run yourself into the ground. My grandmother, with a heart full of sympathy, made me some chicken soup. My dad also sat down to have a heart-to-heart talk with me. Is the pressure getting to be too much? It's all right, Yin Yin. No matter how you do on the test, you'll always be your dad's pride and joy. Doing your best is enough. the more they cared for me, the deeper my guilt and struggle became. I lied, I deceived my closest family. This secret, like a massive boulder, weighs on my chest, suffocating me. I don't know what on earth I should do. Should I go, or shouldn't I? Do I tell them, or keep it to myself? Logically, I know the best course of action is to pretend I know nothing. Whether Lu Fan lives or dies is none of our concern. We have neither the obligation nor any reason to fulfill the dying wish of someone who hurt us. This would be far too cruel for Dad, for Grandma, and for Zhou Yang. But emotionally, I always find myself thinking, what if I really let her die? Would I regret it years later? When Zhou Yang grew up and learned the whole truth, would he ask me, "Sister, why didn't you tell me back then? Why didn't you let me see her one last time?" I don't know. I'm afraid this choice will become a new knot in my heart, one that can never be untied. One weekend afternoon, I was daydreaming on the balcony. Zhou Yan came running over with a drawing in his hand. "Sis, look what I drew." He held the drawing up to me as if presenting a treasure. The picture showed 4 people: a tall man, a kindly old woman, a little girl with pigtails, and the youngest, a boy. The 4 of them stood hand in hand, bathed in sunlight. Everyone's face was lit up with a huge smile. "This is Dad, this is Grandma, this is you, and this is me." Zhou Yang pointed at the painting, introducing each person one by one. "We are a family," he declared with pride. I gazed at the painting, vibrant with color yet brimming with childlike innocence. Looking at Zhou Yang's face, lit by a pure, unclouded smile, my heart felt a gentle, unexpected pang. A family, yes, this is our home. Anything or anyone that could ruin this harmony should not be allowed to exist. At that moment, I made my decision. That night, after Zhou Yang had fallen asleep, I walked into my father's study. He was under the lamp, checking the store's accounts. "Dad," I called out to him. "What's wrong?" Yan Yan, still not asleep, he looked up and smiled at me. I walked up to him and stood there in silence for a long time. Finally, I reached into my pocket and pulled out that letter, now crumpled and creased from my grip. I placed it on the desk. "Dad, take a look at this." With a look of confusion, Father picked up the letter. The moment he saw the word Grandma, his face instantly changed. He read the letter in complete silence. In the study, the only sound was the soft rustle of turning pages. I watched as his hand, clutching the letter, tightened its grip. His knuckles turned pale from the force. When he finished reading, he didn't react with the anger or agitation I had expected. He simply placed the letter back on the desk slowly. Then, he looked up at me. His expression was complex. There was shock, there was anger, but above all, a profound, bottomless weariness. When did you receive it?" His voice was hoarse. "A week ago," I answered softly. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I lowered my head. "I don't know how to say it. I'm afraid you and Grandma will be sad." Dad fell silent. He stood up, walked to the window, and lit a cigarette. The curling smoke obscured the expression on his face. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. The study was plunged into a suffocating, prolonged silence. I had no idea how much time had passed. Dad finally extinguished the cigarette in his hand. He turned around and looked at me again. His gaze had regained its composure. "Yan Yan," he said, "what are your thoughts on this matter?" He didn't make the decision for me, nor did he impose his own ideas on me. He was simply asking for my opinion. He did so with an attitude of equality and respect. My eyes grew hot in that instant. My father, he truly was no longer the weak man he used to be. I took a deep breath, lifted my head, and met his gaze directly. I enunciated my decision, word by word, with perfect clarity. "Dad, I want to go. It's not for her, and it's not about forgiveness. I'm doing this for myself. I want to go and see with my own eyes what final fate awaits the person who brought endless suffering to my family. I want to go and personally put an end to my past life, and then, completely and utterly, erase her from my life." And I paused, and my voice grew firmer. "I'm going alone. This matter has nothing to do with you, or with Yang Yang, anymore. This is my war, and mine alone. I will end it myself." 19. Dad looked at me for a long time. His eyes went from shock to struggle, and finally settled into a deep, understanding gaze tinged with heartache. He didn't ask anything further. He didn't stop me either. He simply reached out and ruffled my hair, just like he used to when I was a child. "Go ahead." His voice, hoarse, was unwaveringly resolute. "Do what you want to do. Dad is at home, waiting for you to return. But, Yan Yan, promise me one thing." He looked into my eyes and spoke, each word deliberate. "Don't go there with hate in your heart. After you see her, forget all of this. Just let it go. Your future is long and bright. Don't let those dark, unworthy things hold you back anymore." I nodded firmly. "Yes, I promise you, Dad." The next day, I took a day off. I didn't tell Grandma or Zhou Yang alone. I simply boarded the earliest train bound for that southern city. The scenery outside the window rushed past in a blur. My heart however, is more peaceful than ever before. Dad said, don't go with hatred, but he doesn't know. My heart has long since been free of hatred. Hatred is a luxury, one that demands an emotional investment, and Lu Fang is not worthy of it. I'm just going to witness the conclusion, a conclusion that belonged to my past life, one that was predestined long ago. The hospital was on the other side of the city. Following the address in the letter, I found the inpatient building, the smell of disinfectant hung in the air, familiar yet suffocating. I walked down the long, quiet corridor. Muffled groans and the soft sobs of family members echoed from the rooms on either side. This is the final stop on life's journey, filled with despair and helplessness. I found the room number. The door was slightly ajar. I gently pushed it open a crack. I saw them, my grandfather and my grandmother. It had been 6 years. They have all grown old. Grandfather's back is hunched now. The imposing air of authority he once carried is gone without a trace, leaving only a face etched with weariness and sorrow. Grandmother's hair has turned completely white. The sharp-tongued shrewdness she once possessed has been washed away by the years, leaving behind nothing but a numb, ashen emptiness. They sit by the sickbed in silence, like two desiccated statues, and then, I saw her, the person lying on the bed, the woman who was called my mother. My heart still clenched involuntarily. That could no longer be considered a person, it was merely a withered body, ravaged by illness, reduced to a skeleton. Her skin was a sickly yellow, tightly stretched over her bones. Her cheeks were deeply sunken, and her eye sockets were dark. Her sparse, graying hair, like dry grass, scattered across the pillow. Tubes of all kinds were inserted all over her body, keeping alive the last flicker of life in her already exhausted body. This was Lu Fang. This is the woman who once, for the sake of playing mahjong, was full of spirit and looked down on everyone. This is the woman who once pointed her finger at me and called me a burden. This is the demon who once locked her own son in a cabinet and pushed her own daughter into hell. Her retribution has arrived. My presence shattered the deathly silence in the hospital room. My grandparents suddenly turned around. When they recognized it was me, shock and disbelief flashed simultaneously in their clouded eyes. My grandmother's lips trembled, wanting to say something but unable to make a sound. My grandfather stood up, his body trembling slightly with excitement. Yin Yin, you're here. I ignored them. My gaze remained fixed on that hospital bed, as if sensing my stare. The dying woman's eyelids fluttered. With all her strength, she slowly opened her eyes. What a pair of murky, unfocused, and pain-filled eyes they were. Her gaze wandered aimlessly around the room. Finally, it settled on me. Her pupils dilated sharply. Her parched lips moved soundlessly, like a fish out of water. I saw a single, murky tear rolled down the corner of her eye. I walked toward her slowly, step by step. I treaded upon the remains of my past life. I reached her bedside, looking down at her condescendingly, watching her in this state, 100 times more wretched than my previous life. Are you calling my name? I spoke, my voice calm and unwavering. Were you waiting for me? She looked at me, her tears flowing even more fiercely. A rasping, wheezing sound, like a broken bellows, escaped her throat, as if she was trying to say something. Don't waste your effort. I interrupted her. You must be dying to know how we're doing, right? I'm here to tell you, Dad's business is doing great, and we've moved into a new house. It's big and bright. Grandma is in good health, and she smiles every day. Zhou Yang has grown tall and handsome. He gets excellent grades and is a key player on the school soccer team. He's cheerful, kind, and everyone likes him. He has completely forgotten everything about you, about that cabinet, our family. We're living a very, very happy life. With every word I spoke, the color drained from her face, the last faint light in her eyes dimmed bit by bit. Pain, despair, and endless regret engulfed her like a tidal wave. Do you know, my voice grew even softer, light as a whisper from hell. That afternoon, 6 years ago, if you really did lock Zhou Yang in that cabinet, he would die. He will eat that packet of rat poison and die alone, in darkness and agony, and I will be the one you brand as the murderer. You will beat me, curse me, and turn everyone against me, and in the end, you will send me to prison. Our entire family will be utterly destroyed by you. That is the ending you have chosen for us. What a pity. I looked at her, her pupils suddenly constricting in fear. I never gave you that chance, Lu Fang. You've lost, utterly and completely. With that, I turned my gaze away from her. I turned around and walked towards the door behind me. There came the heart-wrenching, pleading cries of my grandmother. Yin Yin, don't go. Look at her one more time. She's your mother. The medical equipment also emitted sharp, piercing alarms due to the patient's intense emotional fluctuation. I didn't look back, not a single step. I pulled the door open and walked out, leaving all the cries, pleas, and the din of death behind. Outside the window at the end of the corridor, the sunlight was just right, warm and bright. I squinted my eyes and let out a long, deep sigh of relief. Zhou Yin, from a past life, I avenged you. Rest in peace 20. When I got home, it was already the afternoon of the next day. My father and grandmother were both waiting for me in the living room. They didn't bombard me with questions then. The moment I pushed the door open, my father walked over and gave me a silent, yet powerful hug. Grandma held my hand, her eyes red and teary. It's good to have you back. Good to have you back. Are you hungry? Grandma made your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. As I looked at them, the icy barrier in my heart finally melted under the warmth of familial love. I smiled, a heartfelt, carefree smile. Dad, Grandma, I'm home. That night, our family said nothing about it. It felt like we had just spent an ordinary, uneventful weekend. We ate together, watched TV together, and chatted about the amusing things happening at Zhou Ying's school. That name, and everything it represented, was silently erased from our lives, as if she had never existed at all. After that meeting, I never suffered from insomnia again. The boulder that had weighed on my heart for 2 lifetimes was finally completely lifted. My soul experienced a lightness and freedom like never before. At last, I could live for myself, and for the family I loved. The final month, I threw myself into the final sprint with a state of focus that was almost perfect. The college entrance exams arrived, right on schedule. Dad and Grandma were even more nervous than I was. Outside the exam hall, Dad paced back and forth under the scorching sun. Grandma was holding a thermal flask, filled with the mung bean soup she had been simmering all morning. I walked into the exam hall, turned back, and waved to them. Their faces wore the same worried yet hopeful smiles. I took a deep breath and turned around. My heart was calm. I knew I wouldn't let them down. This is not just an exam, this is my answer sheet, for myself, for my family, and for this hard-earned new life. 3 days passed in a flash. The moment I finished the last punctuation mark and handed in the paper, my high school years have come to an end. It also means the heaviest chapter of my life is finally closed for good. The days waiting for the results were a sweet agony. That day, the moment the score inquiry portal opened, the atmosphere at home was tense to the extreme. Dad's hands were so shaky with tension that he could barely hold the mouse. A string of admission ticket numbers and passwords were entered. Enter. A number flashed onto the screen, a number that instantly froze the entire room. 721 points, the provincial top scorer in science. A brief silence was shattered by a deafening, roof-raising cheer. Grandma held me, laughing and crying with joy, her words tumbling out in a jumble. My good girl, my top-scoring granddaughter, my father, that strong man who had long since stopped shedding tears. Tears welled up in her eyes. He patted my shoulder forcefully, repeating only 2 words, good, good. Zhou Yang was even more excited than I was. He held my report card, jumping and dancing around the room. My sister is the top scorer. My sister is the top scorer. Our whole family held each other in a tight embrace. We had all sacrificed far too much for this moment of joy, all the suffering and struggle at this moment. It all turned into the sweetest fruit of victory. That day, our phone was almost blown up, from the school, from relatives, from the media. Dad turned down all the interview requests. That evening, he simply took us to the best restaurant in town. He ordered a huge feast. Our family had a wonderful, proper celebration. Right in the middle of our meal, Dad's phone rang. It was an unknown number. Dad picked up the phone. On the other end, there was an old, weary voice. It was Grandpa. He only said 2 sentences. The first sentence was, "Congratulations to Yan Yan for coming top in the exams. We're all so happy for her." The second sentence was, "Lufang is gone. She passed away this morning." After hearing that, my father said nothing. He just hung up the phone. In silence, he looked up and met my gaze. In that shared look, we understood each other completely. An era had come to an end. Dad raised his glass. "Come here, Yan Yan, to you, Dad. Congratulations on getting into your dream university, and congratulations, from now on, the sky's the limit." I raised my glass and clinked it heavily with his. "Thank you, Dad." Outside the restaurant window, the city lights were just coming on. A dazzling display of colors. An old world has died, a brand new radiant future is approaching me. 21. Another decade has passed in the blink of an eye. Beijing, late autumn. The entire street was carpeted with golden ginkgo leaves. I stepped out of the law firm's building, looked up, and gazed at the brilliant blue sky. The sunlight was warm, yet gentle on the eyes. I dialed my home number. "Hey, Grandma, I'm off work. Oh, my big lawyer is home. What would you like to eat today?" "Grandma will make it for you." The voice on the other end of the line was full of energy, belonging to Grandma. 10 years have passed, and Grandma's health remains robust. "Anything's fine. I love everything you make, Grandma," I said with a smile. "By the way, where's Yang Yang? Off running wild somewhere again." "Where else? He's at the field." There was a mix of indulgence and mild complaint in Grandma's tone. "You're already a senior, about to graduate, yet you still act like a little kid. Feeling restless if you don't touch a ball for a day." I could imagine my brother Running freely in the sunlight, sweating profusely, hanging up the phone, I hailed a taxi driver, Tsinghua University, East Gate. 10 minutes later, the car pulled up at the familiar, welcoming University Gate. This was the place where I had poured my heart and soul into for 4 years. It was also the most beautiful memory of my youth. I didn't go in, I just stood across the street, quietly. I watched that ancient and solemn school gate, watching those youthful, spirited young faces. My phone vibrated. It was a message from my dad, a photo. The photo showed the new shelves in the store, fully stocked. My father's hardware store has now grown into a small but well-known chain of supermarkets in the city. He never remarried. He said that having the 3 of us was enough. He lived the rest of his life for us alone. Below the photo, there was a line of text: "Daughter, Dad has saved up another row of your dowry." My eyes welled up with tears. I smiled and sent him a big heart. My life is complete. Both my studies and career have been smooth sailing. Family, health, and joy are all by my side. I have become the person I wanted to be. I had gained everything I held most dear. I thought those memories of the past had long since been washed away by time, that is, until last month. I took on a legal aid case. A woman who had endured years of domestic abuse from her husband finally mustered the courage to file for divorce and fight for custody of her child. While organizing the case files, I discovered that the woman's husband worked as a purchasing agent in a small factory. I learned that her 3-year-old son, having lived in constant fear for a long time, had developed severe psychological issues. I saw her husband, that coward, cowering in the corner with his head in his hands. I also saw her mother-in-law, who favored sons over daughters and couldn't tell right from wrong. In that moment, every scene, every ounce of pain and despair from my past life, once again, it clearly surfaced before my eyes. Only now did I realize, I haven't forgotten. I just buried them in the deepest corner of my memory. They have long since become a part of me. They are what forged me into the resilient, independent person I am today, someone who never gives up. I helped that woman win her case. On the day she left with her child, she bowed deeply to me. She said, "Attorney Zhou, thank you. You've given me and my son a chance to start our lives over." I looked at her and smiled, because I, too, once gave myself such an opportunity. Zhou Yin, a clear, vibrant voice, interrupted my thoughts. I turned around. There I saw the tall boy in a basketball jersey, holding a ball, radiating an aura of sunshine. He was running towards me with a smile. It's Zhou Yang. He's taller than Dad. His features bear a familiar resemblance but are even more handsome. "Sis, what brings you here?" He ran up to me and habitually ruffled my hair. "Come on, let's go home and eat. I'm here to pick up our future star." I smiled and swatted his hand away. "Let's go." He put his arm around my shoulder, just like he used to when we were kids. "Sis, I need to tell you something." I'm planning to take the postgraduate entrance exam." "Oh, where are you aiming for?" "Peking University Law School." I was stunned. I turned my head to look at him. His eyes were bright and resolute. "Sister, I want to become someone like you. I want to use the knowledge I've gained to protect those who, like us, have been hurt before. I want to bring a little more fairness and justice to this world." The setting sun's glow bathed his face. It gilded the contours of his youthful idealism with a golden halo. My tears finally spilled over, unable to be held back any longer. These were not tears of sorrow. It was a surge of joy, a wave of emotion, a profound sense of relief. I looked at my younger brother. I gazed upon this treasure I had protected with the effort of 2 lifetimes. He had not been consumed by the shadows of the past. He has grown into a truly remarkable man, a pillar of strength far greater than I ever could have imagined. He will carry with him my hopes, my dreams, and my unfinished business to walk a broader, brighter path. "All right," I sniffed and gave him an incredibly bright smile. "Sister supports you." My brother and I walked side by side on the street covered with fallen leaves. Our shadows stretched long and long under the setting sun. I lifted my head and gazed into the distance. The evening clouds at the horizon blazed like fire, burning with their final and most brilliant light. I knew it. The darkness had long since passed. Our lives are just beginning to blossom in the sun. The future is a bright and boundless road ahead. Story 2. During our family trip on Labor Day, my nephew got poked by a fish fin. I urged them to go to the hospital immediately to avoid possible infection. The whole family brushed it off because they were eager to visit Guanyin Temple for worship. When my nephew faced amputation due to Vibrio vulnificus infection, they blamed me for jinxing it with my cursed mouth. My brother even broke my arm for the sake of his son and took away the new apartment I had bought. My mother said coldly, "This is what you owe my grandson. 1 apartment is nowhere near enough. You'll have to slave away for him your whole life to pay off your debt." After being reborn, I watched my nephew, who had just been poked and was wailing loudly, and turned a blind eye. When my sister-in-law asked about it, I simply said, "Leo is our little lucky star." There's no need to make a fuss over such a minor injury. By the time my nephew had his leg amputated, I had long since quit my job, sold the house, and moved far away. When I was reborn and returned, my chubby nephew was holding a six-eyed flying fish and playing with its wings. The next second, the fish's wing stabbed his finger, and he let out a sharp cry. My brother, his wife, and our parents, who had been taking photos, instantly gathered around him. My mother held my nephew in her arms, tenderly putting his bleeding finger in her mouth to soothe it. My precious grandson, don't cry, don't cry. It's all your aunt's fault for not watching you properly, and this damned fish too. Grandma will get even for you. As she said this, she viciously stomped the little fish flat, not forgetting to shoot me a glare full of resentment. How could you let this happen to the child? And you call yourself a doctor? You're not careful at all. I don't know what your hospital was thinking when they hired you. They must have been blind. In my past life, I worked tirelessly, putting myself through school, and finally became a doctor, only to have my own brother break my arm, leaving me unable to hold a scalpel ever again. I said flatly, I'm not his parent. I can't watch over him forever. My mother grew even angrier, and my sister-in-law chimed in discontentedly, Alara, you're the child's aunt, after all. Is it really such a burden to watch him for a little while? My brother spat out a contemptuous sound and said coldly, she's just asking for a lesson. She thinks being a doctor makes her so special, but in the end, she'll still have to get married, have kids, and when her in-laws give her trouble, she'll come running back to me. What a joke. I'd be lucky if he didn't bully me himself. I grew up under his fists. As a kid, he thought it was fun to throw me down the stairs, and beatings were a regular occurrence. I have this instinctive fear of my brother. Just hearing him speak sends chills down my spine. My father, being the pushover he is, didn't dare say a word. He just pulled a half-melted ice pop from his pocket to pacify my nephew. The kid stopped crying, only to hurl the ice pop straight at me. Auntie's mean, Auntie hurt Leo. My denim maxi skirt got stained with greasy ice cream, and the melted liquid slid down the jeans, dripping onto my shoes. My nephew grinned with delight, the chubby cheeks squeezing his eyes into mere slits. The whole family praised him, saying he was amazing and had such strong hands. After my mom sucked the blood away, the wound became barely visible. My sister-in-law examined it from every angle and asked if I was all right. Before I could respond, Mom quickly chimed in, this little scratch is nothing. Our Leo is a lucky charm. A quick prayer to the Bodhisattva will fix him right up. In my past life, I'd pleaded with them to go to the hospital, warning how easily it could get infected. But the whole family accused me of being jealous of my nephew. I suppressed my emotions and wiped the ice cream off my jeans. Leo's our little lucky charm. No need to make a fuss over such a minor injury. Too, with my sister-in-law finally at ease, the whole family dove right back into their photo shoot. As the sea breeze swept by, memories of my past life surfaced, leaving me with a profound sense of apathy. In my previous life, while I was recuperating at home from the broken arm my brother gave me, his family strong-armed me into signing my house over to my nephew. They even set me up with some tycoon on his sixth marriage. I refused to the death, so my family pushed me off the building. They didn't let my body go to waste either. They married me off in a posthumous wedding. During the ghost marriage ceremony, my mother lamented what a shame it was, saying they could have gotten over 100,000 more if I hadn't died. I also remember how poor we were when I was little. My brother got to eat refined rice, while I had to make do with rice bran. On top of that, I did all the dishwashing, pot scrubbing, and cleaning. My brother went to school with a brand new backpack, but I had to wear his hand-me-downs, baggy and tattered. My classmates gave me the nickname Little Beggar. No matter how much I think about it, I just can't understand. Even if they preferred sons over daughters, they already had my older brother. Why did they still insist on having me? The boat finally docked. It was peak tourist season, and the area in front of the Guanyin temple was packed with people, swelteringly hot. I didn't really want to go, but Dad nudged me and said, we're on a family trip, don't be a killjoy. Seeing his head full of white hair and him carrying 5 or 6 bags, a lump formed in my throat. I ended up being nudged right up to the incense stall. My brother was holding my nephew while my mom and sister-in-law browsed the incense selection. The old incense vendor raised 5 fingers. 500 per bundle. My sister-in-law asked, why so expensive? The old man chuckled, the more you buy, the more sincere your devotion. If you won't, someone else will. The line behind us was getting ridiculously long, and Mom started to panic. We'll take 6 bundles, she blurted out. Alara, hurry up and pay. I was speechless. What kind of incense costs 500 a bundle? Besides, I didn't bring any cash. 3. The old man whipped out a card reader and a payment QR code. Online transfer or credit card. Damn, the old man's so generous, robbing you blind and throwing in a free bundle of incense. I couldn't help rolling my eyes. Even if I had the money, I wouldn't buy it, let alone the fact that I really don't have any. Mom's face instantly fell. Alara, I've raised you all these years, and now you're begrudging me a little money. When we're old, are you just going to kick us to the curb?" I pointed at my nephew and said, "Mom, it's not that I'm unwilling. You're here to pray for blessings for your grandson. The Bodhisattva sees all, only those who pay for the incense receive the blessings. Shouldn't my brother and his wife be covering this expense?" The incense vendor chimed in smoothly, "Exactly, the Bodhisattva blesses whoever buys the incense. So, who's actually going to make the offering here?" My sister-in-law looked awkward and whispered, "Mom, aren't you going to make offerings too? Besides, Leo is your own grandson. What difference does it make whether you buy the incense or I do?" My mother clutched her purse tightly. "Your father and I only have so much pension, you two are well off. What's the big deal about buying a couple of incense bundles?" My brother said impatiently, 500 for a bundle of incense, he might as well be robbing us. Besides, why can't Alara, as his aunt, pay for it? What's hers is basically my son's anyway. My sister-in-law and mother immediately turned on me in unison. "Exactly, Alara, just give us the money, and we'll buy it ourselves." Problem solved. My mother grabbed my arm and snatched the phone, her nails digging into my skin. "Hurry up and give me the money. What if we miss the auspicious time?" Her thick, sharp nails dug deep into my flesh, and I cried out in pain. "Why does it have to be me? I don't have that kind of money lying around. It's not like we'll die if we don't worship Guanyin." I couldn't hold back my words. Smack, a sharp sound echoed, and everything fell silent. My mother's slap landed on my face. "I only scolded you a moment ago, and you're already being this disobedient. How dare you disrespect Guanyin? You deserve to be punished." My nephew giggled, clapping his hands and saying, "Auntie should be spanked. Auntie should be spanked. You made Leo hurt. Serves you right." My brother and sister-in-law watched coldly from the side, and my father seemed on the verge of speaking but ultimately said nothing in my defense. My cheek burned with a stinging pain, and the judgmental stares from those around me made me want to sink through the floor. I turned and walked away, my mother's furious voice chasing after me. "I've fed you, clothed you, put you through college, and this is the attitude I get. You forget all I've done the moment you're full. What an ungrateful wretch I've raised." I stopped in my tracks, clenched my fists, and burst out through tears. "Stop pretending. If you didn't want to raise me, why did you have me? And I paid for college with my own student loans. What does that have to do with your family?" my father snapped. "Can't you just keep quiet? Look how upset you've made your mother. It's always like this, always my fault." For stepping out from beneath the statue of Guanyin, I immediately boarded the high-speed train home. My nephew will start running a persistent high fever in at most 3 days. I need to leave this soul-sucking household before that happens. I immediately listed my house with a real estate agent and insisted on selling it as quickly as possible, even if it meant accepting a lower price, since I bought the property when housing prices were low. I wouldn't lose money on the sale anyway. As for work, I went back and submitted my application for further training to the hospital that very night. This training opportunity is rare. My mentor had mentioned it to me before. I was incredibly foolish back then, unwilling to leave for the sake of that family. Just as I finished filling out the application form, Hilda, my colleague on duty, came over. "Alara, you've gone viral online. Everyone's sharing this video. They're saying your mom slapped you for disrespecting the Bodhisattva." Hilda's voice dripped with schadenfreude as I skimmed through the comments. "Well, wouldn't you know it, everyone's cheering her on, saying I had it coming." A whole chorus of devout followers chimed in. "You don't have to believe, but you must show respect." Hilda chuckled. "People are saying you're heartless. How can you be a doctor when you won't even believe in the Bodhisattva?" I said coolly, "Then next time you have surgery, leave the scalpel behind and bring a Buddha statue instead, since you don't believe in modern medicine anyway." Hilda paused, then chuckled awkwardly. "I was just joking. Don't be upset, but she is your mother after all. You shouldn't have confronted her in public like that." 5. That Hilda is such a seasoned manipulator. In my past life, when my nephew was hospitalized, she was the one running around stirring up trouble, saying if I had noticed earlier and brought him to the hospital, he wouldn't have needed an amputation. We share the same advisor, but she's always been academically behind me, so her resentment is hardly surprising. I've heard from others in the department that despite Hilda's poor skills, she has powerful backing. She could coast by as a mere figurehead and still be secure, but what she doesn't realize is that I have no safety net. If I don't fight tooth and nail, I'll end up with nothing. Yet no matter how hard I pushed myself in my past life, I still couldn't escape the shadow of my dysfunctional family. In the family WeChat group, I was Tagged dozens of times, every one of Mom's voice messages was 59 seconds long. No need to ask, she was definitely chewing me out again. I couldn't be bothered to listen. I went home, took a hot shower, and fell into a deep sleep. I still had to go to work as usual the next day. Little did I expect that the next day, before my shift even ended, Mom's call came through to the hospital. She demanded I get home within 10 minutes, or she'd come to the hospital to find me. I had no choice but to go home. The whole family was sitting in my living room, with my nephew trampling all over the sofa with his shoes on. My brother was smoking in the living room, cigarette butts littered all over the floor. The moment I showed up, my mother launched into a furious tirade. You ran off yesterday, and now the room you booked for us won't let us stay. How dare you ignore our calls? I'm going to your boss tomorrow to report you. I'll ruin your reputation. My sister-in-law slumped on the couch, exhaustion written all over her face. Hurry up and make dinner. I haven't eaten all day. When I didn't move, my brother snapped. Are you deaf? I told you to cook. Do you have any idea we took an overnight hard seat train to get here? You're so heartless, like a stone that'll never warm up no matter what. I was so furious I almost laughed. They dragged me out of work just to make them dinner. What, are your hands and feet just for show? If you're that helpless, can't you just order takeout? And this is my house. Who said you could just barge in without asking? My nephew was bouncing on the couch, chanting, Leo wants takeout, Leo wants a burger. I glanced at his finger and noticed it was starting to swell. My mom chimed in, takeout is so unsanitary, not to mention expensive. Let your aunt cook for you, she's a doctor, you know. Her hands are the most skilled. My nephew pouted and burst into loud sobs. Leo wants burgers, fries, and chicken wings. Leo wants to eat them now. If you want to eat, go somewhere else. Don't eat in my house. Did I even give you permission to come in? Leo's eyes widened as he shouted, this is Leo's house. Mom said this will be Leo's house someday. I shot a cold glance at my sister-in-law and said, you're really something, teaching the child that. Since when did this house become his? My mother said with an air of righteous indignation, you're a woman. When you get married, you'll just move into your husband's house. Of course, this house belongs to my precious grandson. My sister-in-law nodded in agreement. Exactly, we're family. What's the point of splitting hairs between yours and mine? Well, when you were making money, why didn't you think to give me half? Get out now, or I'm calling the police. Call the police, my ass. Alara, I've had enough of you. Are you fucking asking for a beating? My brother had reached his breaking point. In a fit of rage, he grabbed the phone from the table and hurled it at me. I couldn't dodge in time, and it struck my forehead. Blood trickled down my face. The man before me seemed to merge with the shadow of the bully from my childhood, but this time, I'd had enough too. I picked up the phone from the floor and threw it right back at him, and it wasn't just the phone. I started hurling everything within reach. The stool, a vase, cups, even the kettle. Who the hell do you think you are, Lance? What gives you the right to hit me? Let me make this clear, this is my house. I'd rather die and donate it to charity than leave a single brick to you. The floor was littered with shattered fragments, and my bloodied, frenzied appearance gave them all a real scare. Dad stepped in again to smooth things over. Your siblings, after all. Can't you talk this out properly? Alara, look at you, you're not acting very ladylike. Get out. After kicking them out, I bandaged my wounds and called the police. Luckily, we had security cameras at home, and Lance was arrested right away, charged with disorderly conduct, 15 days in detention, plus a fine. I breathed a sigh of relief. With these 15 days, I'd have more time to sell the house. At work, my supervisor called me over. She asked me earnestly if I was truly prepared to go for further studies. I said with conviction, and my advisor said nothing more, simply handing me the letter of recommendation. Before I even reached the office, I could hear my mother's wailing from a distance. What a sin, siblings fight all the time, and she wants to have her own brother locked up over this. My sister-in-law stood by silently weeping, a truly pitiful sight. 7. Sharp-eyed Hilda spotted me and quickly said, Alara, you're finally back. Your mom and the others have been waiting for you for ages. Only my mom and sister-in-law had come. My dad was probably at home looking after my nephew. When Mom saw me, her eyes turned red with anger. Alara, where's your supervisor? I demand to see them. I want them to know what a heartless monster you are. Hilda chimed in with mock concern, clearly enjoying the drama. Auntie, don't work yourself up over this. That's just how Alara is, cold as ice and looks down on everyone. I knew exactly what she was from the start. I never even wanted to have her when I was pregnant. It was her father who begged me on his knees to keep her. Look what his begging got him. Hilda feigned surprise. Alara, so your own mother never wanted you. You're lucky to be alive. But hey, she is your biological mother. After all, surely you can work things out. Well, she's your real mother now. Want her? Hilda looked embarrassed and didn't respond. My sister-in-law, who had been quietly weeping nearby, suddenly knelt down and grabbed my pant leg. Alara, your brother is the breadwinner of this family. I'm begging you, please let him out. If that's not enough, I'll kowtow to you. Will kowtowing be enough? The office was full of colleagues, and the doorway was crowded with patients and their family members who had come to watch the commotion. After this ordeal, everyone's on the verge of ruin, but at least I'll be leaving soon. I ripped off the bandage on my head to show everyone the wound from the blow. I crouched down, held my injury right in front of my sister-in-law's face, and pointed at it, saying, "Look at this. This is what your husband did. If he did this to you, you'd probably want him locked up for life." The gory wound made my sister-in-law instinctively take a step back. Wiping her tears, she said, "He didn't mean to do it. Besides, your siblings, isn't a little roughhousing normal? Fortunately, most people are reasonable. The moment they saw my injury, they fell silent. Only Hilda kept going. Oh, come on, forgive and forget where you can. Are you really completely blameless for getting hit?" My mother finally found a kindred spirit, clutching Hilda's arm as she spoke. You're such a sensible girl. Her brother had every right to discipline her. Alara was born wicked. People like her are destined for retribution. No sooner had she spoken than a phone rang. Mom answered the call, her face instantly turning ashen as she nearly stumbled from the shock. My sister-in-law asked urgently, "What's wrong, Leo?" "Leo has a high fever and lost consciousness." At the same time, I also received a call from someone wanting to view the apartment. I immediately took leave and left, passing by the ambulance sent for my nephew without even a glance. The buyer was thrilled with the property's location, and with my rock-bottom price. We signed the contract on the spot. The buyer asked why I was in such a hurry out of curiosity, and I simply told him I had to relocate for work. My parents' calls kept coming in one after another like relentless reminders, so I ended up blocking all of them. It wasn't until my advisor called me and said, "Alara, you'd better come over. Your parents insist that you need to be here to treat your nephew." By the time I arrived, my nephew's entire hand had swollen up, with the injured area already showing signs of pus and tissue necrosis. Amputation should be considered in this case. At this stage, we'd only need to remove the index finger. My sister-in-law completely lost it and came at me like a madwoman. "Amputation? That's absolute nonsense. You said it wasn't serious before. You're trying to kill my son," I said coldly. "You're his primary guardians. Don't pin every problem on me." Mom glared at me with murderous eyes and snarled, "Alara, if anything happens to my grandson, I'll make you pay with your life." Dad wiped away tears and said, "What kind of mess is this? Can't this family just get along?" I clenched my jaw tightly. Truth be told, I resented Dad too. If only he'd had the backbone to stand up for me back then, things wouldn't have come to this. My sister-in-law and mother refused the amputation. Dad had no say in the matter. He just went along with it, too afraid to object. Despite repeated pleas from the medical staff to stay, the family insisted on transferring to another hospital. As they were leaving, Mom made sure to get in one last warning. "Alara, I no longer have a daughter as wicked as you. Don't even bother telling me when you die." I smiled faintly. Wouldn't have it any other way. Our hospital has the best surgical department in the city. They'd have to go to the provincial capital to get better care. Too bad. Without me as their free ATM, they have no money and are even less willing to spend it. On the very day my resignation was finalized, they transferred back to our hospital. Only this time, their condition was more severe. 9. My nephew has lost consciousness, and the hospital has issued a critical condition notice, requiring him to be admitted to the ICU. Mom saw me and rushed over, grabbing my arm tightly. "Alara, was it you? Did you do this? All the other hospitals said amputation was necessary. My grandson is only 3 years old. How could you be so heartless?" I shook off her hand. "I don't have that kind of power. If you're unwilling, no one can save him." My mother dropped to her knees wailing, clutching my sleeve as tears streamed down her face. "Alara, this is all your fault. Why didn't you make him go to the hospital back then? You did this on purpose. How could you be so heartless?" I replied coldly, "Don't make baseless accusations. I didn't tell him to touch the fishbone. Even if I had suggested the hospital, would any of you have listened? How are we supposed to know if you didn't say anything? You're the doctor here, you bastard. You don't deserve to be called a doctor. As you wished. I've resigned." Mom froze, tears streaking through her hair and across her face. "What did you say? You quit? How dare you? What are you even going to do now? Let me make this clear. The 3,000 yuan you send me every month better not stop." Even in her apparent grief, her first thought was about her own interests. "Keep dreaming. I've been giving you my salary for 5 years. I've more than repaid any Debt for raising me. From now on, we go our separate ways, my mother screamed, grabbing my clothes to stop me from leaving. How dare you? You're my daughter. You're supposed to support me for life. Let me make this clear. As long as my grandson isn't well, you'll never have a moment's peace. Mom, what are you doing? Weren't you supposed to pay the bills? Leo's hospital fees are nearly $10,000 a day. What's going to happen to the child if we don't have the money? My sister-in-law rushed over, looking utterly exhausted, clutching a stack of medical reports in her hand. When she saw me, she dropped to her knees again and grabbed my hand. Alara, I'm begging you as your sister-in-law, please save Leo. He's still so young, without hands. He'll face discrimination everywhere. You're his own aunt. You can't just abandon him. My wrist ached from her grip, but I replied flatly, don't beg me. I have no money either. My sister-in-law wiped her tears, feeling a glimmer of hope, and rose to her feet. Of course you have money. You own an apartment, don't you? Just sell it and the cash is right there. So that's what they were after, my property. I gave a hollow laugh and said, why should I sell my place? He's not my son. Why don't you sell your hometown house instead? That'd fetch several $100,000. Absolutely not. Mom shot back immediately. That's our family roots. We'd rather die than sell it. My sister-in-law broke down, pointing at us and yelling, you're all terrible people. You won't even sell one house. You just want to watch Leo die. Don't blame me. Even his own grandmother refused to sell, let alone a distant aunt like me. I added fuel to the fire. My mother slapped her thigh in fury. How did I give birth to such a heartless daughter? I should have gotten rid of you when I had the chance. You're nothing but a beast. A vengeful ghost come to collect a debt. 10, whatever. Think what you want. I'm not paying a single cent. Hilda came up with a scheme. She brought in some second-rate media outlets and had my parents and sister-in-law take turns slandering me, accusing me of medical malpractice and reckless disregard for human life. My mother called me an ungrateful wretch, claiming I deliberately caused my nephew to need an amputation and would get my comeuppance sooner or later. My sister-in-law said I refused to use life-saving funds to help people and begged the public for donations. My father said he hoped I'd sell the house for the sake of family unity. Wiping away tears, he pleaded tearfully on camera, Alara, we can always make more money and buy another house, but if we lose your nephew, he's gone forever. The power of public opinion is formidable, and I was suddenly thrust into the eye of the storm. Everyone accused me of being heartless and cold-blooded. My phone was flooded with calls from countless do-gooders, and my social media DMs were filled with nothing but insults. How can you stand by and watch such a young child die? You don't deserve to be a doctor. It's sickening that our country has doctors like you. I'm afraid to even go to hospitals now. You heartless quack. Your hospital is just as bad, charging outrageous fees while failing to treat patients properly. I'm never coming back. If you had any conscience, you'd sell your house to pay for this child's treatment. Otherwise, I curse you with lifelong infertility. What has the child ever done to deserve such a heartless aunt? I turned a deaf ear to the public chatter and instead wrote a detailed account of the entire incident. I also contacted the hospital to obtain surveillance footage for clarification when issues arose. Both the hospital and I handled the situation appropriately. 11. If my sister-in-law's family had agreed to the amputation from the start, he might have only lost a finger. I just never expected my mom would pull some crazy stunt before the report even got published. The new landlord contacted me saying someone was caught picking the lock today, and they claimed it was my mother. He sent me a surveillance video showing my mom sneaking around with a locksmith, trying to break open the door. The landlord happened to be home and opened the door right away. My mom stood there frozen for a long moment, then asked if he was my boyfriend. When the landlord said I'd already sold him the apartment, my mom completely lost it. She shoved the landlord aside, barged in and ransacked the place, screaming my name over and over with no response. The landlord kicked her out, claiming I had left town. In reality, I never left town. I was just busy preparing my visa paperwork locally. If all goes well, I'll be flying abroad for further studies in 3 days. The hospital issued a statement to clear my name. They'd have done it anyway to protect their own reputation. Public opinion shifted instantly, with some expressing sympathy for me, saying, it's heartbreaking to be stuck with such a dysfunctional family. Being a doctor is tough. You have to endure both physical blows and verbal abuse. Am I the only one curious about what Vibrio vulnificus actually is? Why is it so deadly? Vibrio vulnificus, also known as marine vibrio, can cause severe wound infections, tissue necrosis, and even death when consuming contaminated products or exposing wounds to infected seawater. I saw a video of my mom in the hospital gossip group. She lunged at Hilda and started hitting her. She was screaming while beating her. Wasn't it you who told me amputation wasn't necessary? Now my grandson's entire Arm is beyond saving. What do you have to say for yourself? What are you going to do about it? Hilda cried out in pain, hurriedly defending herself. I never said that. Stop making things up. My mom's face flushed crimson with rage as she pointed at Hilda and shrieked, You damn bitch. Give my grandson's arm back. It was Alara who originally suggested amputation. But this woman pulled me aside into the bathroom and told me it wasn't necessary. It was her. Hilda's face was deathly pale, with beads of sweat the size of peas streaming down, shaking her head. She offered a feeble explanation. I never said that. All I meant was we shouldn't completely trust Alara. She's not a professional, so that's why. I was wondering why Mom and the others kept transferring hospitals over and over. Turns out they think our entire hospital is incompetent. The mother grabbed Hilda by the hair and slammed her head against the office desk, screaming hysterically, It's all your fault, now. Alara's run away, and my grandson lost his arm. How are you going to make up for this? You could spend your whole life trying and still never repay this debt. Seeing the mother's escalating frenzy, the colleagues finally stepped in to pull her away. The wailing police sirens arrived once again, and both the mother and Hilda were taken away. Dad paid the settlement, and Mom came home soon after. They ended up deep in debt from covering our nephew's medical bills. Hilda faced disciplinary action from the hospital and was suspended from duty. After the amputation, our nephew was out of critical condition, but he lost his entire arm. The follow-up treatments would also cost a fortune. His mother stayed with him at the hospital, but he was struggling to come to terms with what had happened. Mom, where are my arms? 12, my sister-in-law sobbed. It was your aunt. She refused to save you. And that's why you lost your arms. My nephew screamed in a rage. I want my arms back. That horrible aunt. I'm going to beat her up. I'm going to kill that awful aunt. Dad borrowed a colleague's phone to call me. He spoke with cautious deliberation, his tone dripping with ingratiation. Alara, where are you now? Are you doing all right? Do you need money? I let out a dry chuckle. What's this about? Still got your eye on my house sale money? Dad immediately protested. Alara, don't think of me that way. I still love you. It's just that your mother won't allow it. I'm overwhelmed by this profound sense of powerlessness. Dad is always like this, absolutely unbelievable. Mom can do no wrong in his eyes, no matter how unfairly she treats us. He turns a blind eye because he's a coward. He'd rather ignore all the suffering I've endured for over a decade than stand up to her. Alara, your father has never done anything wrong. Even if you turn your back on your mother, you can't abandon your dad too, right? He's never done anything, not even fulfilling the most basic duties and responsibilities of a father. 13, I took a deep breath. What exactly are you trying to say? I just want to say, let bygones be bygones. Your mother, she had her reasons too, Dad said with profound sincerity. What could possibly be troubling her? Suddenly, a different voice came through the phone, trembling with sobs. Alara, it's Mom. I was wrong. I was foolish before. I shouldn't have treated you so badly. Can't I just apologize? Her fake sobs kept coming, and it made me sick to my stomach. I remember my childhood, when our family was so poor I had to scrape the burnt crust from the bottom of the cooking pot. I'd often cry from hunger, but no one ever cared about me. To them, my life or death meant as little as an ant's. Still, I'm leaving tomorrow and cutting all ties. I just want to see what they're really after. So how exactly are you supposed to apologize? Get down on your knees and kowtow, or hang yourself to prove your sincerity? There was a brief silence on the other end before Mom's irritated voice came through. Alara, you've crossed the line. I hung up immediately. It took about 10 more calls from Mom before I finally picked up. She wept pitifully over there, saying, Alara, I truly don't know how to apologize. Where are you? Should I come find you tomorrow? What? Track me down to rob me? I've got no money, and I can't support this whole family of yours. I sneered. Mom was seething inside, but on the surface, she still had to beg me humbly, Alara, that's not what I meant. I just miss you. No matter what, I'm still your birth mother. What mother would ever harm her own child? I sneered inwardly. So now she suddenly remembers she's my biological mother. We've spent hundreds of thousands on your nephew's medical treatments, and most of it isn't covered by insurance. I've been broke for ages. I'm begging you, just give me your house savings for now. Think of it as a loan from your mother, not a penny to my name. Just my life if you want it. Where was this mother-daughter bond when you were beating me and sucking me dry? Mother was so furious she nearly fainted. I could hear her gasping for air. After hanging up, I thought that was the end of it. To my surprise, my mom actually tracked down my hotel that evening. She and my dad were sobbing uncontrollably, which really startled the hotel staff. I ushered them into my room. First things first, how did you find me? My parents exchanged a glance, and my dad said, it was that Dr. Hilda. She mentioned you'd stayed at this hotel before, so we Thought you might be here and came to check. I can't believe you still trust her. She nearly cost your precious grandson his life. Mother clenched her jaw and forced a smile. I only trust you now. Just give us the money. We'll do anything you ask. What if I demand you publicly apologize before the entire hospital? What if I insist your son, his wife, and their child personally beg my forgiveness? 14. Mother fell silent. My father opened his mouth to speak, but my sharp glance cut him off. You can't get silk from a goat's mouth. All he ever does is pour oil on troubled waters. Not willing. Fine, forget it then. I was about to ask staff to escort them out when my mother panicked. In that moment, dignity and pride meant nothing compared to cold hard cash. Fine, for my grandson's sake, I agree. Happy now? I smiled in satisfaction. Remember, this has to come from the heart. No sincerity, no money. My mother reluctantly agreed through gritted teeth, and I immediately drafted a speech for her. Read it exactly as written. Mom glanced at it and immediately flushed with anger. Alara, why did you have to write about going hungry as a child? Are you trying to embarrass me on purpose? Exactly. I want you to feel ashamed. I was the only one who went hungry while having to wash dishes. Shouldn't you feel embarrassed about that? Either read it or don't. It's your choice. In the end, Mom gritted her teeth and agreed. All for the money. I arranged for them to wait for the money at a cafe tomorrow. After seeing my parents off, I opened my computer and wrote a whistleblowing letter. I ran into Hilda first thing the next morning. She seemed to have come specifically to gloat, but when she saw I was perfectly fine and in good spirits, she got visibly agitated. Didn't your mother come looking for you, you little bastard? Watch your mouth. Just because your heart's filthy doesn't mean your words have to be too. I took a sip of coffee and said calmly, 15. Hilda dropped the act and sat down across from me. She rolled her eyes. It's just studying abroad. Don't think you're the only one who gets this opportunity. My uncle said he's recommending me for a European program next week. She sneered triumphantly. So I'm telling you, no pedigree, no connections, just a hopeless family. You'll never measure up to me. I glanced down at the police car lights flashing below. Don't be so sure about that. 5 minutes later, the police led away a smug Hilda. She cried out in panic, why are you arresting me? What have I done wrong? I stretched lazily in the morning light. Did you really think no one knew about the shady dealings between you and your uncle? Taking red envelopes is one thing, but trafficking medical equipment and stealing research, that's no small matter. The only reason that Trash Hilda got into the hospital was because her uncle pulled strings. Everyone knows about it to some extent. I'd been gathering evidence in secret, planning to report it after going abroad. Pity she had to walk right into the line of fire. After checking my boarding time, I bought a new suitcase to deliver a grand surprise for my parents and the whole family. Some busybody at the hospital started live streaming as my mother stood at the main entrance, her face burning with shame while reading the apology letter I had written, every word cutting deep. Alara, I shouldn't have favored your brother over you, shouldn't have let you go hungry since childhood. Shouldn't have hit or scolded you, shouldn't have made you support the whole family financially, shouldn't have burdened you with every chore. I was wrong. Your father, your brother, your sister-in-law, we were all wrong. I'm a disgrace, scum, unworthy of being a mother. Our entire family has failed you. Are you satisfied now? 16. I wiped my tears and slid the suitcase filled with money under the table. When the appointed time came, I headed straight out the door. The airport was just a stone's throw away. From the second floor of the mall across from the cafe, I watched quietly as Mom, Dad, and my brother showed up shortly after. My dad called me, and I picked up. The money's under the second table, see for yourselves. My brother frantically rummaged through the items. His 15 days in the detention center had taken a toll. He'd lost weight and his expression had grown even more sinister. When they finally found the suitcase I'd left behind, they hurriedly opened it, only for their faces to instantly pale in unison, because what I'd left them was a suitcase full of joss paper. My brother flew into a rage, roaring, God damn it, Alara, how dare you mess with me? I'm going to kill you. I'll make sure you die a miserable death. 17. I burst out laughing, wiping away the tears of mirth from the corners of my eyes. So, what do you think? Surprised? Shocked? Does this feel familiar, Lance? Just like when you swapped coarse rice for fine rice as a kid. Now I'm trading hell banknotes for real cash. When your whole family kicks the bucket, don't expect me to burn any joss paper for you. My brother looked up and spotted me across the street. He immediately went berserk, charging toward me like a madman, but the light had just turned green. As he dashed out into the road, a car slammed into him, sending him flying through the air. Mother was wailing in despair, and my brother stopped breathing right then and there. Father was still dragging that case of spirit money, which scattered and fluttered in the wind. Mother screamed through her tears, demanding my life. Alara, I'll haunt you even in death. I'll make sure you die with me. She tried to charge at me, but Father held her back. That's enough. Alara has been through a lot. Just let her go. I was taken aback. This was the first time I'd ever heard Dad stand up for me. My heart twisted with an indescribable feeling, but I knew I had to leave, no matter what they said, Mom sobbed. I told you I didn't want to have her. But you insisted just to have a child of your own. Look at the ungrateful wretch you brought into this world. So my brother wasn't actually Dad's child, but I'm his biological daughter. All these years, he stood by silently like a quail while my brother bullied me and my mother oppressed me. Why did he suddenly find his courage now? Dad held Mom in the middle of the road, sobbing uncontrollably through his tears. He said, "It's all my fault. You lost your job because we had Alara, but she's innocent. What did she ever do wrong?" Mom started hitting and kicking him, shouting, "I just can't accept it. Why does that little troublemaker get to live so well? It's not fair. Heaven has no eyes." Dad seemed to remember the phone was still on. Cradling it carefully, he said, "Alara, you should go. I'm sorry. If I had stood up for you from the beginning, maybe things wouldn't have turned out this way." Fighting back tears, I could only manage a quiet goodbye. 18. My studies abroad went smoothly. I earned my PhD within 3 years and became an associate professor at a foreign university. Within 5, when I returned to my home country, everything had changed. The receptionist respectfully urged me to rest first. Out of curiosity, I asked a fellow townsman about my family's current situation. My brother's death was entirely his own fault, but the driver still kindly compensated us with 30 to 50,000 yuan. All that money ended up in my sister-in-law's hands. And 3 months later she ran off without telling anyone. Leo was left in my parents' care, and since becoming disabled, his temper has grown even more volatile. After other students made fun of him, he shoved one of them into the middle of the road, nearly causing a serious accident. He got kicked out of school because his family couldn't afford it, and his mom found him a nuisance too. Leo kept getting heavier and bulkier, even started getting physical with his parents, turning the whole family into the village laughingstock. As for Hilda, haven't seen her since her uncle fell from power. Rumor has it she was transferred to a lower-tier hospital, but got fired after prescribing the wrong medication to a patient, causing a serious medical incident. Just then, an intern knocked on my door. She spoke tentatively. "Professor Chen, I've always admired you. When I heard you were here, I specifically wanted to ask you a question. Would it be alright if it's not work-related?" 19. Sure, go ahead. How did you ultimately make the decision to break away from your family of origin? I suppose I've just had too many disappointments. Looking into her timid eyes, I said gently, "As long as you have a clear conscience, everything you do is right. Never let yourself be controlled by external forces. Your life belongs to you."